It's 6 p.m., and I'd like to call the July 13th, 2021 meeting of the City of Pico Rivera City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Council members, directors, commissioners Camacho,
Here.
Laura,
Here.
Lutz,
Here.
Dr. Sanchez,
Here.
Mayor, President, Chairman Elias.
Here.
All present.
Councilmember Lutz, could you please perform the invocation for us? And Councilmember Laura, can you do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Please stand. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we look for your wisdom, integrity, unity in today's council meeting. May it be productive and benefit our city in every way. Help us to stay on track and to keep focused on what is right and just. Help us to consider all the facts and to come to a definitive plan of action concerning our community as a whole. Help us make our decision and vote as if you were in the chair next to us. Amen.
Everyone, please face the flag, place your right hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Before I ask the city manager if there's any changes of agenda. Was that me? I wanted to introduce our commissioners today. Monica Villalobos, Planning Commission. Could you please stand up? Thank you. And Gloria Aguirre, Parks and Recreation Commission. Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do we have anything in terms of changes of agenda?
No changes to the agenda, Mayor. Mayor, my understanding is the Army Corps was running late. I see them enter the room. Are you guys ready?
We are whenever you are.
Thank you. No changes.
We talked about the presentation about the opening of the city and so on.
Yes, that'll be done under city manager reports at the direction of Councilmember Lara.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a brief update. On July 7th, the Health and Wellness Committee met with City Manager Steve Carmona, Assistant City Manager, HR Director Ryan Hudson, and Parks and Rec Director Pam Ugar. We reviewed the LA County, CDC, state, and OSHA guidelines. We determined some guidelines in terms of opening the meeting that would be safe for the public and for those in attendance. I am pleased to say that the City of Pico Rivera Chambers is open to the public. Thank you. We will give a full report later.
Okay, thank you. Because again, we have a question about the Senior Citizen Center and so.
All that will be addressed, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our visitors from the Corps of Engineers, are they here?
Yes, they are.
Okay, we have a special presentation from the Corps on the Whittier Narrows Dam project.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having the Army Corps of Engineers tonight. Do you mind if I remove my face covering?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. So my name is George Sonny. I am the project manager for the Whittier Narrows Dam Safety Modification Project. I'm here to provide a couple of items, one of them being an update on the project's progress and also to answer certain questions that have been raised regarding procurement practices and making sure that we have a kind of a clear understanding of what the federal government can and cannot do when it comes to that. If there's no questions, we'll go on to the next slide, please. So this short presentation will basically just summarize a little bit of the issues that we are addressing for the purposes of the Dam Safety Modification Project, talk a little bit about what we are proposing for the dam safety and what our schedule is associated with this, and to break it into two major construction contracts, the first being for the utility construction contract that's scheduled later this year, and then the dam modification, the larger work that's planned in 2022. And then the last couple slides will talk about next steps as well as answers for questions and things along those lines, if you don't mind. So as a short reminder, Whittier Narrows Dam, it's located just upstream of the city of Pico Rivera. It regulates flow on both the Rio Hondo River, or the Rio Hondo, which is on the west near the west embankment, and the San Gabriel River, which is out by the central and eastern embankments. This is normally a dry dam. It's this time of year, if you were to pass by it, you would notice there's no water in it. That's normally the case. However, under very rare or under extremely rare situations, it is possible for significant flooding to occur because what the concern is from the Army Corps is that we want to make sure that under these extreme floods that the dam is able to behave as it's designed. And that is why we are doing this effort. It was built in 1957, and so it's lasted over 60 years functioning as designed, and we intend to make sure that the dam continues to function as designed in the future years. And so being good stewards of not only taxpayer money, but also of the people here and downstream of the dam, it's important that we make sure that we proactively take care of the work on the dam. The big issue here is that because of under some of our simulations, that the San Gabriel River can generate up to 20 times the flow as the emergency spillway is capable of providing. And so that is kind of a reminder of the significant amount of water that is involved in these extremely rare events, and why it's important for us to do this work. So that's kind of the main component of it. From an emergency standpoint, one of the things that we're also mindful of is the fact that we do not want water to go past the Rio Hondo. That is an important emergency ingress and egress, especially in the case of a flooding event. So that's kind of a summary of what's going on now. And now that we know that this is an extremely important project, and we're working to move as quickly as possible to get the dam safety modification project into design and construction. So in the environmental impact statement provided in 2019, the Army Corps of Engineers provided a summary of impacts. A full listing can be found in that environmental impact statement, but I've summarized some of them here. I've also indicated that a couple of the main features include road realignment of Lincoln Avenue, in which we're going to be aligning and raising that road up to about 6 feet, as well as raising Rosemead Boulevard approximately 6 feet. During a recent outreach event, I know there were some questions associated with that as well. I'm working with one of the private citizens about that particular question. And in the EIS, a number of construction impacts, including noise, vibration, dust, and recreation impacts were identified. And we are trying to work with the LA County Department of Parks and Recreation, City of Pico Rivera, and others in order to find ways to minimize those impacts. We also know that the City of Pico Rivera is also working on other projects that may also help in terms of minimizing those types of impacts. And I've provided some information about staging areas that have obviously impacts to recreation, and the Army Corps is very sensitive to that fact, knowing that this is that this is an environmental justice issue. And so, as you can see from this map, downstream of the dam, there is virtually nowhere that isn't otherwise fully developed. And so we're working with areas that the Army Corps owns, and and I know the City of Pico Rivera is very well aware about these, but these include Streamland Park, the majority of the golf course, as well as Bicentennial Park and the impacts to Sports Arena Drive. From the standpoint of the project schedule, we're currently in the intermediate phase of design. We are working on our next submittal, which is Our 65% plans and specifications are intermediate plans and specifications. We're also in the late phase of design for our utility relocation construction contract, and I'll talk a little bit about that shortly. And we're also working on an environmental contract as well in order to meet our requirements to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So far, we have been staying very close to on schedule given everything. From the 2019, my 2019 presentation, we were expecting a schedule that's very similar to this. So, the Army Corps has been making a point of trying to give this project the respect and urgency that we have been stating and that the city of Pico Rivera is well aware of. One other comment in here is that you'll notice there's an item that says PI in black. This is a post-implementation evaluation and basically is summarized as, did we do the actions that are needed to do what we said we were going to do in terms of reducing risk? That is not a construction phase. That is just an evaluation afterwards. But we want to make sure that when we go through this, we're not introducing a potential new failure mode. We want to make sure that we've adequately and thoroughly addressed those issues. On this slide is a little bit more detail on our dam modification design and award schedule. And basically, I think the main component is to let you know that we are in our intermediate plans and specifications. We're working on a supplemental environmental assessment. And the reason that is important is because as part of that work, we have a public review that is provided that will be provided. We do plan on having a public meeting as well. And I've been mentioning to members of the city of Pico Rivera that we will provide ample advance notice before this document goes out on the Federal Register. There will be information available on the Federal Register as well as at the time, but we want to make sure to provide you advance notice that this document will be coming out. It's primarily for updates associated with Lincoln and Rosemead Boulevard, because a lot of the information already had been included in the EIS. Again, our main construction award for the dam modification is scheduled for September 2022, and we're going to do everything we can to meet that timeline. Construction efforts are intended to take about 4 years. This particular slide associated with next steps kind of breaks down the next 3 months worth of work, including the fact that we just recently advertised the utility construction contract that's located on the San Gabriel Spillway. This is the first significant construction contract associated with the project. We are also conducting work in conjunction with the city of Pico Rivera, including last weekend's outreach event at the golf course. We will also be coordinating regarding the Smith Park event this coming weekend, as well as the bike ride 2 weeks after that. And we welcome opportunities to be able to do that, to do that outreach. We will have our next submittal for our plans and specifications for that intermediate 65% level in August, and we're looking to award that construction contract for the utility work at that time. And then in September, we're planning on having start our public review for the environmental assessment, noting, of course, that these dates are scheduled, they are subject to changes depending on, on issues that may come up, risks, things along those lines. We're going to do everything we can to meet these timelines. And again, as I mentioned, September 2022, we have kind of that larger dam modification contract award. So that's kind of to answer, to provide that update. But there are some more detailed questions also associated with procurement practices, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that if you don't mind. So the federal government typically has a number of methods that they can use for small businesses, for underprivileged businesses. We have things, for example, called the Hub Zone that can be used, 8As. And there are a number of methods for otherwise underprivileged businesses and small businesses to potentially get additional work. However, there is not anything from the federal government's perspective to be able to provide a local set-aside. And that is set aside for local companies, right? Now, that said, we want to make sure that if there are opportunities to partner with larger companies, for local employers to do so, usually through subcontracting or other mechanisms, that's certainly something that's welcomed. We want to make sure ultimately that we get a full and open competition to the extent that we can. And for the components associated with small businesses, we do encourage companies to to reach out about the type of work that's going on. We're planning on industry days later in 2022 with more information to be forthcoming, especially once we get past our intermediate review. So that was kind of a summary of kind of what we can and cannot do from a federal standpoint regarding procurement and procurement practices. I thank you very much for allowing me to present tonight on this really important project, and I welcome any questions that you have.
Okay. Council members, let me go one by one. Okay, so then we have Mayor Pro Tem. Any questions?
Sure. During the contract award modification with September 22, is that the point where closures will be necessary at the various sites?
With the exception of the northern portion, a couple of the holes associated with the Pico Rivera golf course, that is correct. A couple of the holes for the Pico Rivera golf course will be impacted during the August 2021 contract award. And so that's just one thing I wanted to make sure from a standpoint of transparency associated with it. But the larger closures and restrictions would be in 2022 with that larger dam modification contract. And again, a lot of it has to do with safety, just making sure that contractors are able to do their work safely, as well as the public being able to do their things safely as well.
Thank you.
Councilman?
Yes, as far as once we begin to do construction, or you begin to do construction, how is it, so the public and the residents can understand, how we're going to mitigate both the noise and specifically the dust? I know we have a micro project compared to this one in the city. It's created a lot of problems for the residents in the area. How do you plan on mitigating such noise and the dust?
When it comes to noise and dust, obviously contractors are, for the federal government, we're requiring all contractors to provide information such as noise plans, dust emissions plans. Actually, I think traffic safety is typically one of the other items that's included, among others. I mean, this is certainly not an exhaustive list. In addition, among the requirements is contact information for the contractor as well, in case of problems where there's excessive noise, that's especially that going outside of the normal limits that they're required to. So the EIS assumed 6 10-hour days of work, for example, in a given week. And so if people are working well outside of those hours, there's going to be contact information available. And as part of this process, that's part of the reason we want to make sure to be able to reach out to the city and take advantage of these opportunities for that, to let people know about this is what's coming down, this is what we're planning on doing, and to make sure that they have adequate information about who to contact if there are concerns, especially when it comes to our contractors who are working these efforts.
And aside from having a number where residents can contact if they have a complaint, can you specifically, if you know now, it seems like you're far into the design, the dust, how is that going to be mitigated? Because, I mean, that in itself, folks with pools, just their backyards, I mean, in addition, we're not managing the project, so how are you going to enforce that, and what are the repercussions to the contractor if it's not in compliance?
So I can only answer part of that just because there's some information that's kind of outside of what we know at this point. But things like wetting down areas, for example, that's usually an effective method for mitigating dust and other particulates that are within the area of the project. But there are more details that I'm going to reach out to our engineering team and follow up with a separate formalized response, if you don't mind.
But that is one of the highest priorities for residents to mitigate 5 years of construction. And I get it's going to be a nightmare for them, but that's very important. And equally important, what are you going to do as far as security? There's just, quite a lot of acres of land there as relates to homeless encampments, security issues. Are you going to have someone 24/7? Is that part of the contract?
So we haven't necessarily so we're fairly early to be able to put that into, say, contract language, for example. However, that is definitely something that our construction team in the Los Angeles area and nearby they've flagged me about the importance of having somebody on board for that purpose, for security, especially given the location and some of those other items. Again, I have a debrief scheduled with our construction team based on their schedule, our sequencing meeting, and that'll be part of that formalized response.
So it's a lot of information that we still need to hear and see what the plan of action is from your. Lastly, Rosemead Boulevard, is that going to be a full closure or partial closure? That's our entrance on the north side.
Right. We anticipate a partial closure. We're not looking to have a full closure, and we're working actively with LA County Department of Public Works to minimize those types of impacts. One of the things that they made very clear to us during some of our preliminary discussions is that a full closure was not a viable solution. And so we are actively working with the county on that. And in fact, I believe we have a call scheduled on Thursday to follow up with some of these things. They'll have more detailed review comments, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Let me just, we were talking about security. We understand that construction projects like this does draw a lot of vandalism and theft, and so is it included in our mitigation plan? Our public safety people?
For the construction
site?
project? This is not something that is our responsibility. It falls on the Army Corps, but we're well aware of the potential impacts, and we're going to continue to work with the Army Corps to address those issues as they arise.
Lieutenant, is there any comments? We're fine with it?
Well, we rely on the individuals that will be coming in to do the construction, that those measures will be put in place. And obviously, the sheriff's department is here and will be responding to any needs that arise. But, even with pre-planning, there still may be some responsiveness that we'll need to do, but we'll be prepared for that.
So the homes surrounding the site will be protected?
Yes, the homes will be protected.
Thank you. Member Lara, please.
Thank you very much. My questions were asked by Councilmember Gustavo Camacho. They were in concern to the health mitigation efforts in regards to soil and dust and whatnot. Thank you. The answer that he gave was sufficient.
Okay. Councilman Lutz.
Thank you, Mayor. George Sonny, thank you very much for the brief presentation. And I'm glad you're here because now I get to ask you a question, and hopefully you can give me some clarity, as well as the public. When it comes to the road that leads to the sports arena, that is going to be canceled out. Will there be an alternate road to be utilized in the future after 2026, the date that the whole project is complete?
Councilmember Lutz, thank you for the question. That's a very important one that I want to make sure that I'm glad you asked that question. So in the dam safety project, there is not currently an authorization to bring back the sports arena drive after the dam safety modification is completed. As mentioned in 2019, we don't have that congressional authorization within the dam safety project. However, if Congress otherwise authorizes that work through some other separate means, the Army Corps is not opposed to that. And so, we're not able to do that within the dam safety. In fact, I actually asked that question several times during the study phase about that, and that was the explicit answer from a federal standpoint, is that is not possible within
Is
the
the
DMC.
Army Corps opposed to putting an alternate road during the 2026 completion period?
As noted, if it's otherwise congressionally authorized, the Army Corps is not opposed to that. But again, it has to be separately congressionally authorized.
Very good.
Council member, I'd just like to add that staff is currently working with both Congresswoman Sanchez and Congresswoman Napolitano on trying to find a resolution for that.
Thank you.
Sir, you also brought up one other thing that I did want to provide an update on, which is I know that the city of Pico Rivera is well aware of a report to Congress. We have provided that to our higher headquarters, but I know that that is in progress. I know that is taken longer than expected on that front, and I just wanted to provide an update on the fact that it is with our higher headquarters, and I think it will soon be transmitting further up in Washington, D.C.
And moving along now to the remnants of the golf course, after the project's completed around 2026, what will be anticipated to be left of that golf course area?
We anticipate that at least the footprint of the project is going to go out up to about 200 feet from the toe of the dam. That is what the current design states. As noted, that any remaining space that is not used for the purposes of the project, the Corps is not opposed to once again, outgranting to the city of Pico Rivera. However, we are required to make sure that our design meets the requirements associated with the dam safety. So once that's completed, if there is, if there are spaces that are available, and in fact, I've communicated this with other members of Pico Rivera, that we want to make sure that there are opportunities to provide some of that recreation outgranted space, if at all possible. We recognize that recreation is sometimes very difficult to come by here, and we want to do everything we can to help with that perspective. But again, we also have to make sure that the dam is left safe. That is, our public safety has to be number one priority from the Corps' perspective, and we intend to do that.
And Mr. Sunny, one final question regarding the remnants of the golf course. Will the golf course parking lot be utilized over the succession of years as a staging area for the Army Corps?
So to my knowledge, we have not been looking at using the parking lot for that. We are considering using this Bicentennial Park. That said, if anything changes on that front, we will make sure to provide updates regularly about this, because I know that that's an important consideration. The clubhouse is another thing that I know that there had been some discussions about the possibility of it. But again, I think we're going to be leaning towards the use of the Bicentennial Park as a primary staging area for both its proximity, its closeness to the dam, but also because of some of the challenges associated with, legal considerations with the clubhouse and the parking lot, right? And I believe, if I remember correctly, that the recently executed agreement does not include the parking lot and the clubhouse, if I remember correctly. I have to go back through my history on this, which is one of the reasons why Bicentennial Park is such an important component of this.
And finally, to summarize, would the Army Corps be inclined to come every 6 months and give an update on the project over the course of the next years up until 2026?
I would like to, this is a decision not necessarily for me to make. I will certainly relay this to our district leadership, but I think that would be a great idea. I certainly do, and unless there is a significant objection, I would actually like to make sure that that happens.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's the portion of your presentation talking about the procurement and the contracting. We need to unpack something in here. What you're saying is that there aren't going to be any small business set-asides?
Small business set-asides are certainly possible, right? If there are enough businesses, typically we require a minimum of 2 for a given contract, that are small businesses or, for example, categories of them.
Yes.
We certainly, will look at that, but we do need to make sure that there is sufficient competition first and foremost.
Now, the Corps of Engineers is not going to be it's going to contract out prime contractors to do the work here. So the businesses would have to approach the prime contractors, no?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you determined or estimated how many jobs this construction is going to create?
So, I've been asking around that question. I think it's still fairly premature, given the fact that there are still some design decisions that are still being made. But I do want to caution against over optimism when it comes to that. And I think, the one thing I've been trying to make sure that people are aware of is I would rather under promise and over deliver than the other way around. So that's why I'm trying to be very mindful of that, if you don't mind.
Can you give us an under promise?
So I don't have a good number that I would be able to give you good fidelity on.
Okay.
But that is something I do need to follow up with, and I'm more than happy to provide a more formalized response afterwards.
I've researched the same situation and I've come to the same, there really isn't any numbers there. The only thing I did was I got a number from the TVA, okay? And there were about 3,000 jobs that, were associated with that. So looking at that, would I be off by 1,000 or so?
It would probably be significantly smaller than that if for no other reason than I think the biggest work is going to be associated with trucking and heavy civil, because there are a number of utilities that are located in the area.
Now, is there a way that the city, with the help of the Corps of Engineers, work with the prime contractors to establish employment preferences?
That's something I would have to check on, because I'm not aware of any specific methods that we can use within the Corps to do that. So I don't want to deceive you and give you information that is wrong. So I would need to go back, and I will be including that in that formalized response.
I had the opportunity of reading the environmental impact statement cover to cover. Shows you I have no life, okay?
It's quite lengthy, I know.
Yes, it does. And we're talking about, 65,000 vehicles a day, right, on Rosemead Boulevard? And we're going to cut the traffic flow?
Right, so that there are going to be impacts to that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we recognize that is a significant roadway for those purposes, yes.
Now, let me ask you, just for the existing situation, the operations here, is it necessary for us to designate a coordinator so we're in contact with, I have a contractor right now that is saying that there's a lot of, communications that are being missed between the Corps of Engineers and the city and so on. Is there a need, or that's not a problem?
This is the first I've heard about some of those concerns. I know that I've been having more frequent communications with Mr. Javier Hernandez. We've actually been talking on average about once to twice a week.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and we realize the importance, the urgency associated with this, and that's one of the reasons why he and I have been talking on a much more frequent basis. And I've been incorporating my district leadership as well, because of the fact that is something that, as we're advancing toward design, that we need to be mindful of.
Now, besides the register and possibly identifying potential prime contractors in there, will the Corps help us with developing a relationship with the potential prime contractors for us to talk to them about our business?
So ultimately, again, that's something I would have to go back and see if that is the case. I mean, I think it would be well worth asking that question, and I'm very receptive to that. But again, that is not a decision for me to be making.
Okay.
And
Well,
I
that's very
understand your
important to us,
question.
so I would appreciate it.
And absolutely. And I understand the importance to the city of Pico Rivera and appreciate the question that you've provided.
Any more questions? No. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Now we go to council. Are there any hearings that?
No, sir.
Okay. So the next item that we'll go into is public comments. Do we want to take the written ones first or personal?
Sir, that's up to you.
That's up to me? Okay. All right, let's take the in-person. Now, let me remind you, because we've had, 14 months or so that we haven't been here. We cannot respond to you, okay? You will have 3 minutes, and I think yes, okay, we have that, but not the little light here. I may be a little bit rude by just hammering the gavel there if, when your 3 minutes is up, but again, that's part of the policy that we have here. So let's begin with Mr. Jose Sanchez on item number 5 and item number 6.
Mr. Mayor, every speaker has 3 minutes for whatever they want to talk about, so, sir, you have 3 minutes for any items. You have 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes. He has 3 minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Well, he's our parliamentarian, so we'll have to, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, it's also in the rules of the city council on the agenda.
Yeah.
There's should be no confusion to members of the public, and quite frankly, most cities follow that practice, that speakers receive 3 minutes to address the city council. Mayor, all comments should be, yeah. Speaker, this is totally out of order. The speaker's out of order. Why don't you start his 3 minutes, and he can take the microphone, and his time will start once you start.
Mr. Sanchez, would you like your 3 minutes? On general comments?
So that's right now. Mr. Mayor, that's right now.
Okay. Antonio Hernandez on number 7.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Elias, community. I'm Antonio Hernandez. I'm an employee with the El Rancho Unified School District, and I work for the IT department. Due to the pandemic, I've been in a position where I witnessed firsthand the great things that the city and the district can do when we work together. Over the course of the last 15 months, we worked to provide internet services for our families and our community members who really needed it. Together, we worked to share information through our communication channels and with our community. So, as a community member, I'd like to thank the city, Mayor Elias, the city council, city manager Carmona, the city communications team for all of these efforts, and I ask that we continue to basically build on this to satisfy the needs of our families. Now, my concern for number 7, and it's particularly involving the parties involved. I believe that the council needs to do a bit more research before entering into this agreement. I believe that the company that is listed to be approved is the same company that was trying to sell capital appreciation bonds to our district. Maybe that's not illegal, but ethically, I'm not sure if that's the right thing for our taxpayers in our city. The community rose up to stop the shenanigans within our district, and I think we need to stop that with our city. I asked the council, what was the procurement process for this to manage these bonds? Thank you.
Ms. Hope Cruz? The subject, rent control?
Yes, sir. It's my first time. I hope I don't go over. I'm just going to read. I'm Hope Cruz. Hello, everybody. I'm a single parent, retired, and on a fixed income. I'm going to remove this if it's okay. Is it okay? I have lived in Rio Vista Mobile Home Park for almost 3 years now. I live in this park because I didn't have $600,000, which is the average home in California, so I bought a manufactured home in 2018. It's affordable. It's around the corner from my daughter, where my son-in-law is ill. I moved here from the East Coast. This is my story. I got the park contract the day I moved in. I learned too late that rents would increase at an uncontrolled percentage at the landlord's discretion. Although I was verbally told they would remain the same for a long time. I felt deceived and misled. My contract was not provided till the last minute. My rent has increased 5% each year. Since the increase again, I will be paying over $1,000 plus utilities and property taxes and insurance that goes up this year too. Those with a mortgage will be highly tested this year. Our residents are proud of their homes and value their park homes. They've put hard-earned life savings into their homes. Each summer, they spend money to maintain them and maintain their value. During the summer, we pay an exterminator, a painter, pros to come in and maintain paint in accordance with the park regulations. We want the value to stay up. You can see homeowners spraying, weeding, putting out pelts for wild animals that come into our area, snakes, spiders, keep everything out, insects. We try everything. Rio Vista is a family park, but you won't see our kids or youth loitering, littering, drinking liquor, or doing drugs. In the 2.5 to 3 years I've lived there, I've seen one police car. Is it time? I'm sorry. Okay. The owners of Rio Vista are not allowed to share their homes. They are not allowed to rent a room. I am required to pay a $50 monthly fee to have my daughter live with me. It's really scary. We're going to be out on the streets, and it probably will be called Pico Rivera's nomad land, where people will be out living in their cars and vehicles. I have a solution, but I don't know if I know.
Time's up. Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Maria Aguilar? Maria, did I get your last name right? Aguilar? Yes. Yes, okay. Item number 7?
Yes, sir. Okay, starting. I want to speak on item number 7 and the staff recommendation of Cabrera Capital, Incorporated as the bond underwriter for the city bonds worth tens of millions of dollars. Cabrera Capital, Inc. employs former Pico Rivera Assistant City Manager Benjamin Cardenas as a senior vice president. In addition to his employment with the city, Benjamin Cardenas served as a board member and president of the Montebello Unified District. Benjamin Cardenas' time on Montebello School Board is marked with examples of extreme corruption, including a Securities and Exchange Commission investigation into $300 million of construction bonds that resulted in fines and punishments for district officials. The reason that this is relevant is because Councilmember Gustavo Camacho previously worked for Delterra on a bond construction management firm that was hired by Benjamin Cardenas during his time on the school board. In fact, Councilmember Gustavo Camacho is currently facing criminal charges for political money laundering in connection with his work for Delterra. He is being charged with disguising political distributions from Delterra Company and giving them to Montebello Unified School Board to ensure that Delterra could continue receiving the school board contract. In addition, while Gustavo Camacho was working for Delterra, they were accused of billing for work that it was never completed. It is because of the cloudy history between Ben Cardenas and Councilman Gustavo Camacho that his contract should not be approved. It is possible that Ben Cardenas helped give Delterra a contract. Would Gustavo Camacho pay this favor back voting for Cabrera Capital to be underwriter for these bonds? Member Gustavo Camacho will likely say that he had nothing to do with the staff recommendation and the Cabrera Capital earned his own on their own. That may or not be true, but even if it's true, given the perception of unethical behavior and the fact that Gustavo Camacho is still facing criminal charges based on his work with the company that was potentially awarded contracts through unethical practices, he should abstain a minimum. Also, the fact that this company would be recommended given the history, given the fact that it's represented by Ben Cardenas, someone who allowed the school district, he was charged of to engage in bond fraud, is ridiculous. The company or person who recommended Cabrera should also be asked to resign because they should have chosen any number of other companies without this cloudy history. So you can find information. There's information with Camacho. There's information with Cardenas on the news, LA Times, and other newspapers. So I really want you guys to consider the contract.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Salvador Torres, item number 7. Salvador? Mr. Torres? No? Okay. Let's see, I have a, is there an Arlene? Rent control?
Thank you for having me here. Good evening, everybody. This is about the rent control. I live in Villanova, mobile home, and I've been there almost 20 years. And when I first moved in there, I started out with 600 and something. And it wasn't that bad because at the time when I moved in, I was already working. I was working for Rancho Unified School District. The rent didn't bother me because I had 2 incomes coming in. So I was managing my rent. So as the years went by, my rent kept going up, $10 each year, and so on and so on. And then I started out with 15 more in the rent control. And then it went up to 40. And that time I wasn't working. I had retired from school. But anyway, I am writing this to the city council member for the rent control mobile park at Villa Park, hoping that the members can help our problems here at the park. Many of the low senior citizens cannot afford the rent, which every year it goes up. It is not fair because we have not gotten a raise in our Social Security, maybe in about 2 years. And if we get a raise, we still have to pay the rent, and what difference does it make? Our raise will go up. It'll go to for the rent. So what kind of a raise do we get? So anyway, I'm hoping that we're asking for the help to freeze the rent control. Thank you. And my name is Arlene Rita Alonso, and I live in Space 49. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alonso. Judith Rogers? Rent control?
Hello. I live at Villanova, and I'm a mobile home owner there. I've lived there 15 years. And my father was a mobile home owner there for 38 years. And during that time, for 53 years, with me living there 15 years, and he lived there 38 years, we never had a problem with the increase in rent because it was $10, and so there was no problem. And, there was no problem with it. And so as time went by, it went from 10 to 15 for many, many years on both. And then all of a sudden, as Arlene said, it jumped to 40. And everybody's going like, what happened? And so come to find out, there was no rent control. And so they said there was nothing that we could do about it. And so they said, we said, is this going to happen in the future? And they said, well, we don't know. And so that somewhat woke us up. And so we started researching it, and we found out that there's no rent control. So we realized we need to do something about it because we're low income, we're seniors, and we depend on that money every month. Social Security does not cover anything. I mean, we're thankful for it, but I mean, it's so minimal, 2% yearly? So that doesn't get it. So this is why we need this protection for us as time goes on. I mean, we have that threat that we're going to lose our home. We're going to be uneasy year by year if we don't have rent control. What's going to happen to us? You know, how big is the rent going to go up for us? So we have to live with that through the year to see what's going to happen. And so that's a big, big concern for us seniors. So as I said, it's a wake-up call for each one of us. We realize we're going to have to fight this. We are beginning to do this. People's realizing it. And I believe as this COVID is over with, and they do give us a rent increase, a lot of people are going to join us because they're going to see, I know we're going to get a big raise, and a lot of people will join us because they're going to realize that it's bigger than they realized it, because we haven't had an increase for, a year, almost 2 years. So it's just going to be a mind-boggling situation for us. And that's mainly what I want to present, and to let you know that ours is a month-to-month that we pay rent. So I just want to present it to you to let you know that it's a terrible situation for us seniors, and it's just overwhelming for us, and we're just trying to figure out where to go from here. And
Thank you, Ms.
for
Rogers.
listening. I appreciate it.
Ronald Wilson. Now, this subject is CBMWD versus Central Basin Public Works.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the time, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. I'm here to try to convince you guys to talk to Central Basin to drop this lawsuit. I'm an attorney. I represent Leticia Vasquez. Central Basin has filed a lawsuit against her, primarily to stop her First Amendment rights. There was a dispute at Central Basin. She was on a different side of a water issue, mainly an illegal water tax, a meter charge, and she spoke about the water conditions publicly as a member of Central Basin. So they sued her, totally illegal, totally bogus. 2 judges have heard it. They try to get a restraining order to say a public official can't go on internet and publicly speak, and that she can't write a letter and publicly talk about issues before the Central Basin. Judge Beckloff, Department 86, denied it June 10th, and Judge Mary Strobel on June 30th also denied the restraining order. Why? Well, first off, they're claiming that their image might be damaged. Even if Central Basin's image is damaged, there is no such thing as a defamation lawsuit against a public entity. I can say whatever I want about a city or a state. There is no such thing. That's one reason it was thrown out. The other reason is they try to be clever and say, oh, well, she used our letterhead, and she can't use that. All the Central Basin directors use the same letterhead. Both judges just threw it out. It's going to be thrown out, and we're here to try to convince you folks to, I believe Monica Heredia is your representative on the board, to talk some sense into the people at Central Basin, to stop wasting taxpayer money. The end result will simply be they'll lose the suit. It's going to be a slam dunk ultimately. They're going to pay Central Basin's attorney's fees, and they're going to pay our attorney's fees, all for no good reason. They should either engage her in debate or put out their own public statement or have a town hall or do something other than sue a public official for speaking in the public about public issues. They're going to lose. You cannot sue a public entity cannot sue someone for defamation. It's just impossible. I notice your counsel here, Mr. Alvarez-Glassman, very experienced man. I don't know if he'll say anything in public, but I guarantee you if you ask him, can Central Basin sue someone for damage to their image, he'll tell you absolutely they cannot. So I urge you to tell your representative, to tell the people at Central Basin, please stop the nonsense. We'll pursue it. I'm a litigator. If we have to try it, we'll try it, but it's just going to be a waste of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Leticia Vasquez?
Good evening. My name is Leticia Vasquez, and I am one of 7 members of the Central Basin Water Board. In your introduction, Mr. Mayor, you talked about leading with integrity. And it is my hope that that value trickles down to your staff. I'm here to address an issue of public concern. Your Public Works Director, Monica Heredia, who's sitting here to my right, was recently appointed to the Central Basin Water Board. And she led an effort to file a lawsuit against me personally, case number 21STCV16320. I want to submit a copy for the mayor and the council members, which includes my response. This is an apparent attempt to silence me about the very, very public issue and discussions about PFAS and PFAS contaminants in the local water supply. Central Basin attorney billed $175,000 in legal bills associated with this lawsuit. These bills will be paid by Pico Rivera residents. As a former mayor and former council member myself, I value the importance of free speech, and I'm certain that you do as well. I know you are concerned about the impact on Pico Rivera residents, and the massive legal bills will trickle down to their water rates. Now, if this lawsuit wasn't enough, Ms. Heredia pushed the attorney to file two separate restraining orders that, as my attorney mentioned, were both rejected by two separate judges recently. I come before you to ask that you encourage your Public Works Director, Ms. Monica Heredia, to stop this frivolous lawsuit. Thank you.
Olga Portillo. Subject, rent control.
Hi, I'm Olga Portillo. I live at 8509 Beverly Boulevard. I'm a retiree of LA County Department of Health, 27 years of county service. I'm a widow now. My husband has passed 3.5 years ago, leaving a very hard financial burden for me, especially with the rent control that they want to hike it up. It was very difficult because now there's no other help. It has gotten very hard, and to raise the rent will be even harder. It's just impossible. I have not been able to receive Social Security. I've tried to several times to talk to them, Social Security, and even sending letters to Councilwoman Linda Sanchez with no answers from her. If the rent goes up, I do not know what I'm going to do. Rent control is needed here at Villanova Mobile Park. The seniors here are all on fixed incomes. We need your help, and also the surrounding mobile parks. Also, my house is sinking. I put a new roof and floors. I spoke with the grandson of the owner of the property. He came by and put sandbags around the property. He came by with the assistant manager and put sandbags, and it did not work. The property is sinking underground, and they need to do something about all this water stuff that you guys are talking about. I'm going to get some help from, hopefully, legal aid to try and get some help on the rent control and Social Security. The owner of these properties needs to be taken to court. He needs not to raise the rent, to use it for his benefits, leaving us seniors to suffer the consequences of just daily living. My rent is on a contract, is not on a contract, and I pay monthly. It went from $600 all the way up to $900. If I get help from legal aid or City of Pico Rivera, hopefully it will be not just momentarily, but in the long run to just make it right the way it should be. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Portillo. Lauren Talbot.
All right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Lauren Talbot, and I'm the Community Library Manager at Pico Rivera Library and Rivera Library. I'm happy to announce that both libraries are now open to the public. Pico Rivera Library is open Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and on Tuesdays from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Rivera Library is open on Tuesdays from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., and on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Both libraries are now open 5 days a week. We are offering in-person programs for children and teens on Mondays at Pico Rivera Library. At 11 a.m., we have programs for babies and toddlers. At 2 p.m. and 3 p.m., we have programs for children and teens. These programs include performers, art activities, and vary every week. Due to capacity limits, registration is required. Please visit our website, lacountylibrary.org/summer programs, or call the library to register. Thank you.
Now, we have this last one. It's also rent control, but no name. Do we have someone that wanted to talk about rent control?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Amelia Rojo, vengo del Parque Westland.
Point of order, please. Can we please get a translator?
Excuse me?
Can we please get a translator? I believe Mr. Rojas is going to speak in Spanish, and I think it's necessary that we provide an English translator.
Javier, you take that?
Sí. Okay.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Amelia Rojo, vengo del Parque de Westland, de Pico Rivera. Creo que ya nos conocen. Nosotros estuvimos desde el año pasado, vinimos aquí a pedir que nos ayudaran para el control de rentas. Creo que algunos testimonios. Sí. Yo creo que ustedes tienen ya bastante evidencia de nuestro parque, porque algunos de ustedes estuvieron yendo con nosotros.
She says that many of you have already stopped by to the mobile home park and are familiar and have seen some of the evidence that they've been presenting over time.
Sí, y algunos de ustedes saben el problema que tenemos todos. La mayoría de personas que estamos viviendo en ese parque somos de la tercera edad. Yo soy de la tercera edad. Y es mucho lo que estoy pagando. Yo dependo de mis hijos. Y creo que ya estoy llegando al punto de que voy a perder mi casa. Porque no hay manera de pagar. No podemos quedarnos sin alimentos.
Many of you are familiar with the community that lives and resides in the community park. Many of them are of an older generation of the senior citizen age and are familiar with some of the challenges that they're having and are facing even more significant challenges in the near future.
También quería decirle a la señorita Mónica que por favor cumpla sus promesas. Al señor Lax también. Nos hizo sentir muy felices y muy contentos. Estábamos con la esperanza de tener ese control. Pero ¿qué pasa? Se les olvidó. Somos pobres, ¿verdad? Pero no se olviden que Dios mira todo y ya no se queda con nada.
She asked that Councilwoman Sanchez and Councilmember Lutz please comply with your promises. Ay, se me olvidó. Perdóname, señorita.
Está bien. Creo que ustedes saben español. Creo que todos lo entienden. Y espero dejarles este mensaje y que lo piensen porque ustedes tienen madres y pueden llegar al momento de tener esas necesidades y ustedes tienen que responder por ellas. Dios está mirando todas las cosas que ustedes hacen. Tienen un puesto muy bueno, están viviendo bien económicamente, no les falta nada. Pero a nosotros sí nos falta tener un techo seguro. Y ustedes tienen el poder para poner ese control de rentas. Así que se los dejo a ustedes a su criterio. Muchas gracias.
She says that she leaves it to you that you are able to institute some type of rent control through the city powers, and that she hopes that you'll look to God for the wisdom and support to make these challenging decisions.
Gracias.
Thank you. Council, how are we going to deal with Mr. Sanchez here?
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you can call him back for 3 minutes, and however he wishes to address it. If he does
Okay.
not wish to speak to the council, that's his choice also. So he's working his way to the podium. Once he gets to the podium, then
Okay.
we can start the 3 minutes.
Mr. Sanchez, item number 5 and item
sir.
number 6.
It's not item 5 and 6. That's the reason why I have the problem, but we'll discuss it, offline, I guess. Any case, the point of my comment here is just to say that it's good that we, the public, are once again allowed to participate in person, to comment and no longer be muted with these farcical excuses such as pandemic restrictions, which are in violation of the Brown Act. For over a year and a half, the agenda has said email public comments will be read into the public record. None were. It was false. Reading email subject lines, at times parsed, made the intent and content of the emails unrecognizable and sometimes misinterpreted. As an example, I emailed comment on 2 items for the June 22nd council meeting. One was on the golf course. It was not brought up during the council meeting, but there's record in the minutes, and it doesn't even express the intent of the email. The comment was about the course not just being closed, but the fact that it's a money pit. For over a year and a half, or over 10 years actually, the city has been spending over $250,000 annually on the golf course. A money-losing enterprise that only a few residents, if any, actually take advantage of. Now, within the year, because of the Whittier Dam, the golf course is going to be closed, either half or the entire golf course. In the new contract, that the management contract opens up floodgates because it's no longer a money pit, it's going to be a bottomless pit because it takes away the maximum loss limit that is in the current contract, making the golf course a bottomless pit. And so the point of the comment was going on the second item was that the city claims to have no funds to grind down the asphalt on Rosemary Boulevard, to provide my community the promised relief from the thumping, the shock, and vibration while the Rosemary Boulevard CIP payment project gets underway. A trench issue my community and I have expressed a concern with for over 2 years here at the council meetings at the suggestion of the city manager, and for over 13 years to Public Works. So it's good that we're allowed to comment again and comment in person. I will keep on attending council meetings just to keep raising the issue with City Hall and to bring up every single time any issue where the city says there's no funds and yet they spend it on everything else. Thank you.
Thank you,
Now, about
Mr.
5 and
Sanchez.
7, 3 minutes, if you have 5 items, and you have 3 minutes only, that's ridiculous. This policy sucks, and you guys need to fix that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have 2 written communications received by, let's see, Amy Powell regarding number 5, past due debt of Liba Inc., and Nora Valdez regarding illegal fireworks. Okay, we go to the consent calendar. Now, we have items from 1 to 11 in the consent calendar. So I am going to go council member by council member to see if there's any ones that you would like to pull for discussion. None? Councilman? None? Councilman?
Items 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11.
4, 5, 7, 9, and 11.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Lutz? Okay.
I'm fine with items pulled.
All right. Okay, so then what we'll do is that we'll vote on the balance of those.
So moved.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
I second.
Councilmembers Camacho,
Yes.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Councilman Laura, you have 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11. Number 4?
Yeah, number 4 deals with the tree maintenance contract from West Coast Arborists. The whole plan was changing from 5 years to 3 years. This would incur a substantial cost for the city, as that was not the original contract. The original contract was 5 years. But the city sees fit that we would get better service if we moved from 5 to 3. However, doing that incurs a significant cost, approximately $1 million. So I would like to direct the city manager to offer RFPs for new contracts in regards to this service. I'd like to go into the open market. I'd like to see if we could potentially save more money for the city. Given that we're changing the terms of the contract to 3 years, can I please get a second?
Second?
It's definitely a second. Just echoing Councilmember Lada's comments, I think, the modification to a 3-year is significantly increasing it to $1 million. I do believe that we should definitely do an RFP on that, so I second that. Now, I just point of clarification, or our city council, do we vote on this item as a yes or a no, or do we just supersede the motion by Councilmember Lada?
Mr. Mayor, members of the city council, as I understand, the motion is to go out to bid. Correct?
Now, may I make a brief amendment to that, and if you're open to this? There's 470 trees that are backlogged. That's going to cost us, city manager, approximately $100,000 to catch up on those 470 trees, correct?
That is correct.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we approve the backlog trees, pay the $100,000 so we get those 470 trees up to date under the existing contract, but then go out to RFP for a new 3-year contract and see if we could get a lower bidder.
So the motion would be to amend this to just approve those additional 470 trees. I
Yes,
support that amendment.
Okay, thank you. Legal counsel, did you get that?
Pulling up the contract, if I may have a moment here. Let's see. We have the amendment. What we would need to do then, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, because the item before you is to amend the contract to have, it will remain in effect until June 2024, unless sooner terminated. I don't have the primary contract.
We would, if I may, Mayor, so we would be voting on 1B only.
We'd be voting on
Item 1B.
1B,
That's a
1B only,
470.
correct.
And that's all that we.
And to direct the city manager to have an amendment prepared consistent with that direction.
Correct.
Yes.
That's the motion.
And that we go out to RFP for a 3-year contract.
So we have to see what the remaining term of our existing contract is. Arnold?
Yeah, I don't have that, it's not part of the agenda report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not part of the agenda report, so, yes, you have an existing contract that is, when is that due to expire, if we know?
I think it's,
December, I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry, good evening. It expires at December 2023.
2020 what?
23.
23, the current
Or
contract,
22, I'm sorry.
the current contract.
Yes, that's correct.
We have, what I don't have also is the notice of termination provision of that contract, so I don't know if there's.
Legal counsel, if it makes it easier, you know the intent of council.
Correct.
You want to do some research and then come back to us?
Correct.
So that
I
we, at the
do.
next city council meeting?
I can look at the main contract and see what options the council has, but
That's perfect.
I move to continue the item to.
Okay, you need to clarify what your motion is now.
Sure, but I believe the council member was going to say.
No, I was going to say, we're not doing anything to change the contract. We're just not approving the amendment, which is.
That is what you're doing
item
at this point.
1A. And so, but we're only approving 1B of this recommendation. So in essence, the contract stays the same without the amendment,
Right,
in addition to 1B.
right, but also for staff to examine the existing
Let's
contract.
make sure we do it
So it's
right and clear,
consistent
but
with the
as
request.
Councilwoman Lara mentioned, the
We-
intent is there and.
We certainly can do that.
Is it clear to council?
Can we just move this item to the next meeting?
Mayor.
Well, if you research the current and items per my colleague's request, move to continue this item to the next council meeting for time for our attorney and city manager to review.
Mayor, I have a comment. I'm in line with Mayor Pro Tem. I'm all about looking at the contract to make sure that if we do cancel a contract, we're not under the obligation to pay a penalty, an early cancellation penalty. And we have to be aware of that. So I would like to second to continue this to a later date until we examine the entire contract and not be in a position where we have to pay an early cancellation penalty.
So, Mr. Mayor, then the motion made by the Mayor Pro Tem, which is now seconded by Councilmember Lutz, is a substitute motion to the main motion, which is to hold this matter over to your next meeting, and that's the motion on the floor to continue this tonight's meeting to your next meeting.
We have a vote on it?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Bring that back at your next meeting.
Number 5.
Yeah, I pulled this item because several residents have reached out to me regarding the forgiveness of this outstanding debt of we're in the round of $380,000 to LABA. They're the contractors responsible for the sports arena. I think that this is due and this is just that the city council make this decision, given that the COVID pandemic suspended their operations between March of 2020 and June 15 of 2021. They were unable to perform business duties because of COVID restrictions. What's before us approves the June 15, 2021 as a formal date to reinstate all quarterly installment payments. This June 15 date coincides with LA County Public's Health issuance of allowing people to congregate. To be honest with you, I think this is fair. I think this is just. How can we ask them to pay money when they were unable to do business? I understand that they're up and running now. There is such a thing as Picolandia. I didn't know about it before. I know about it now on TikTok and Instagram. And it's quite an event. And I'd encourage our residents to go and support this, the functions that they put on. So I'm in favor of this, but I thought it was necessary to provide an explanation as to what the cities do. And
So you simply want to make a comment?
Yes.
Okay. There's no need for any motions on this, is there? Just for a comment? Nope.
I have a question. If may, will the sports arena as well need to be closed due to the Whittier Dam Narrows project? Whittier Narrows Dam project?
We're currently looking into those issues. If they take down one of the access roads, we have ongoing conversation with the fire department to see what that potential impact could be. So we're continuing that discussion.
Okay. Number 7.
Yeah, I'm at it again here.
Mr. Mayor, we have to vote on that.
Oh, it was just a comment.
Yeah, but we still pulled it. We have to vote on it, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Okay, the vote. Second?
Second.
Okay.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I just want to point out that I have received contributions by this vendors as well.
Thank you.
Myself as well, I need to disclose, the owner of this group did support a donation during my campaign.
So we have Council Camacho and we have Member Pro Tem that have received contributions from LIBA. Anyone else?
I did not.
I received contribution from Liba Inc.
Number 7.
Thank you. I'd like Columbia front and center, please, to take the microphone. I'm going to have a number of questions directed their way. Columbia Capital, are you? Thank you. If you don't mind, please. For the record, could you state your role with the city?
Audience, is it clear what, Laura, or is it a little bit muffled in terms of this mask? Yes, it is muffled. Okay.
I'm fully vaccinated. Great. So this is just for context for the audience and those keeping score at home. This is in regards to the tax allocation refunding bonds. Sir, could you please address the council in terms of who you are and?
Sure, Councilman Lara. My name is Mike Williams. I'm a managing director of Columbia Capital, but we're not the municipal advisor for the tax allocation bonds.
Thank you. So did you make the recommendation for Cabrera?
I did not make a recommendation for Cabrera. I could explain the process for the request for proposal that was done.
Thank you.
If you'd like.
Yes, I have a couple of questions related to that. Is our municipal advisor in the House?
For the tax allocation bonds? Yes, it would be Doug Anderson from UFI representing UFI.
Okay, thank you. Representative for Columbia, there are two different recommendations, two different sets of bonds. They are not dependent on each other, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So give me the players for each recommendation. How many firms submitted proposals?
Okay, I can speak to the proposals for the tax allocation, for the pension obligation bonds.
Thank you.
We got a list of potential underwriters from staff. These were firms that have provided information and ideas for several different bond issues. And those firms were Cabrera Capital, Piper Jaffray, Ramirez and Company, Raymond James, and Stiefel.
And for the pension obligation bonds, you're recommending Cabrera?
I am not recommending Cabrera. I assisted the city in the development of a request for proposal.
Okay.
And so we worked with city staff on that to ensure that we were asking questions regarding the pension obligation bonds, such as who are the people that were going to be assigned from each of the firms to work on the financing, should they be selected. We asked about the capabilities of their underwriting desk, which is the part of the firm that actually sells the bonds to investors. We asked in the RFP about specifically pension obligation bonds and what type of experience, how many bond issues they sold, what were the size of the bonds over the last several years.
So in gathering that information, there was a matrix, there was a scoring card, correct?
Right. After the request for proposals were received by the city, we discussed with the finance director a scoring matrix and what we have done for other public agencies as far as coming up with a a list of things to score to be able to compare one firm to another.
Thank you. So you compiled the matrix. Did you do the actual scoring?
We first had a weighting for each of the categories: the responsiveness, the professionals assigned, the recent relevant tax allocation, the pension obligation bond experience, the structuring and ideas that each firm brought that we thought were significant, and came up with a total score. And we discussed with staff how each of those questions should be weighted.
Okay, so it sounds like you came up with the scoring also.
We discussed that with staff. It was staff's.
Just a yes or no, please. Did you score the scorecard?
I came up with scores based on what my judgment was, and I shared those with the staff.
Got it. Is your score the same score as staff's, what the ultimate recommendation? So let me ask this question. Your scoring, did you have Cabrera Capital on top?
On the first matrix, I did not, and
Okay,
then.
thank you. So this is my next question. Who's the lead principal with Cabrera Capital? The lead agent? He signed the cover letter.
Well, I don't have those with me.
Got it.
I think it's Brian, I can't remember his last name right now. Brian Corley.
Got it. Well, when I went through the RFP, it seems like Benjamin Cardenas signed the cover letter and is the lead when I read the RFP for Cabrera Capital. Is that correct?
His name was on there, yeah. He signed the letter.
So, okay, so how many years has Benjamin Cardenas been involved with issuing bonds?
Councilman,
Yes, sir.
Councilman, let me, what road are you going down here?
Well, I was trying to just basically establish that I wanted to see who was responsible for this scoring and who was responsible for the recommendation of Cabrera Capital. And it went through a strange twist, to be honest with you, because I was expecting the gentleman from Columbia to say that he was responsible because he put together a matrix and he put together a scoring. And then when I asked him if he recommended Cabrera Capital based upon his scoring, he's telling me no, he did not. So who did?
Well, I think the staff was involved in reviewing and making the final recommendation.
Thank you. So staff was involved, right? Okay. So it's my understanding, may I continue, Mayor?
Excuse me?
May I continue?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
continue.
Okay, great, thanks. I didn't know if you were just going to
Just-
cut me off.
I
'Cause
just
know
needed to know what road you were going down.
I'm just going a little long-winded. So it's my understanding that Mr. Benjamin Cardenas has about 3 to 4 years in regards to financing. Are you aware of that?
That sounds about right, yes.
So, and it's my understanding that when I looked at the fees, initially the fees were hidden in regards to the bonds. Well, they weren't hidden, they were there. You had to do the manual calculation yourself. But then I circled back and I asked staff to prepare a table,
Right.
basically what the fees would come out.
Right.
And Cabrera Capital came out at the highest in regards to fees. It's somewhere in the realm of 180,000.
Yes.
The lowest fee was about 68,000, right? The mid fee was about 144,000.
The low fee was $88,940.
88,000, but the mid was about 144,000.
Yeah, that was the average fee.
So here you have one of the lead principal agents who has 3 to 4 years of experience in finance, and they submit the highest bid of 180,000. How is it that they scored, how is it that they're being recommended?
Well, the underwriting fee is a part of the total cost to the city for a bond sale. So that's the fee that the city would pay to the underwriter to sell the bonds. But actually, the most expensive part is the yield on the bonds that are sold to investors. So in our experience, the range of fees that we're seeing here are not out of line.
Got it. I'm just concerned that, I heard through the grapevine that some of these firms purposely submitted low bids because they wanted to demonstrate how corrupt this process was. I want to repeat that. Some of these firms purposely submitted low bids because they wanted to demonstrate how corrupt this process was going to be.
Councilman?
Yes, sir. I have one more question. And this is for the city manager. Who's responsible for recommending Cabrera Capital in regards to the pension obligation bonds?
Financial advisors that were selected by city council.
And these financial advisors is that Urban?
Urban Futures are on the line right now. One of them, I think.
Does that
Michael Bush.
gentleman represent Urban Futures?
I believe he's one of the representatives. We also have Michael Bush on the line.
So I'd like to get him to the podium, please, if you don't mind.
Michael, can you take the question?
No, I'd like to get the gentleman in person. from Urban
Michael's the one who
Futures.
handled it.
Oh, well. Sir, do you work for Urban Futures, yes or no? The gentleman sitting in the audience? Yes, I do. Yeah, you work for us, right? We hired you. That is true. Can you please take the podium? With all due respect, I'm sorry, but I've asked this 3 times and it was denied to me.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Doug Anderson. I'm with Urban Futures. We are the municipal advisor on the tax allocation bond issue.
First off, to the both of you, my apologies. I usually don't act like this. What's your role at recommending Cabrera Capital? Is that your recommendation to this council?
The recommendation was made, as far as I understand, as a recommendation from our CEO, who's on the Zoom line, if you'd like to talk with him.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
And staff, a combined collaboration.
Okay, so Urban Futures is recommending Cabrera Capital, a firm with the lead principal agent of 2 to 3 years in terms of financial experience. The RFP that's highest than anyone. Is that what you're telling me?
No, the tax allocation bond issue had some different numbers. They did have a range of total fees from $44,000 to $110,000, and the joint proposal from Raymond James and Cabrera was the second highest.
So I just want some clarity to this. You're responsible for recommending Cabrera Capital, is that true?
They are part of a team, Raymond James.
Sure, Raymond James and Cabrera Capital. Is Urban Futures responsible for this recommendation?
We compiled the proposals from 2 years ago. We scored them, and we presented that information to staff and made a joint recommendation.
Got it, thank you. A joint recommendation. Who was the other party?
We were working with staff as well.
Okay, so it wasn't your decision solely to recommend Cabrera Capital. You were working with
I
staff.
personally was not involved in this, so I'm speculating now. If you'd like to talk with our CEO, who actually was involved, he is waiting on the Zoom call.
So that's fine, that's fine. I'm going to move on to a different question. Sorry, because this opened a different can of worms. So this RFP in regards to the tabs, right? Because we have pension obligation bonds, and then we have the tax, we have the tabs, we have the tax allocation bonds. When was that RFP issued?
My understanding was it was 2 years ago.
So based upon your experience, is that best practice to consider RFPs that were 2 years ago?
It's not a usual practice, but it's not unwarranted. I think the issue hasn't changed. The recommendation wouldn't change based on the time elapsed. The issues are still the same. If I may make
But the
a comment.
financial market's different, though, right? You're not going to go off financial advice from 2 years ago to make a decision now.
I'd like to provide some comments if you'll allow me, but.
I will, yes, I'm sorry.
So this tax allocation bond issue is fairly complex. There are many moving parts, including the fact that the city's water authority actually owns the bonds. So once we pay the bonds off on the tax allocation bond side, a water authority bond will also be paid off. In addition, the city or the successor agency has pass-through agreements with the county that are very complex and also include deferred pass-throughs that have accumulated to quite a large amount. These factors were taken into account when we looked at the 5 underwriting firms as far as their familiarity with the city, not just their underwriting discount that they gave us, but we wanted to know, or our group wanted to know, what their experience was with the city, with these issues, and familiarity with the whole package, not just a price. Anyone can sell these bonds. All 5 firms we've worked with on tax allocation bond issues, any one of them could do the job. However, how well do they know this city? That was part of the process. In addition,
Yeah, but didn't
in
you
addition-
factor in a
excuse me.
potential? No, I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry, I'm steering the questions. But didn't you factor in a potential conflict of interest, given that the gentleman had worked for the city?
I personally did not. You can talk to the person who looked at these if you like.
Councilman?
Yes. I'm done with my questions.
No. In this conversation, I've heard, a couple of items that concern me, okay? The first one is that we have a procurement policy that says the lowest responsive bid. And apparently from this conversation, I'm getting that wasn't achieved. The other is the fact that we have a 2-year-old RFP, and we're putting it together here. So what it's doing is that it's drawing a lot of concern. So you made that clear. Now, what action are you proposing? Do we need to review this whole process?
Thank you for that, and thank you for providing some clarity to where I'm going. I move that we scrap we need to scrap this. This is such a farce. I move that the council have a workshop on POBs as soon as possible, that the council establish an evaluation committee to review the POB proposals consisting of the city manager, the finance director, and the mayor or his designee. That the 5 firms that submitted proposals be invited to make oral presentations to the committee. That the committee make a recommendation to council no later than September. My second proposal is that we need to scrap these 2-year RFPs. It's just bad practice. We need to reissue RFPs for the tax allocation bonds. And we need to do this ASAP. No more questions, just 30 more seconds of your time. What really gets me about this whole process is we had trouble getting here. We had trouble convincing people that this was a good idea. And then they bring forth a shady company and they want us to go along with it. I'm upset. You don't have my trust. And that's the worst thing, is I'm just really disappointed with this procurement process.
All right, so
May I speak, Mayor? I have a question for the CEO that's on the line. Were there any council members, mayor, or involved in this scoring process or in this advisory process?
No.
No? He's not there. I see his face. Gentleman that's here, any of you that participated in the process? Were there any council members or that advised or participated in this process?
No, there were not.
Thank you.
Not to my knowledge.
I'd like to speak for Urban Futures if it's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Yes.
I evaluated the proposals independently of staff. I scored them, ranked them, and sent the scoring over to staff myself. It's a little bit different response, I think, than that you might have heard from your other advisor, but I was the one directly that did it myself. Without staff's involvement in the scoring, they did not ask to be involved. They asked me to do it independently, for which I did. And I've sent that information over to them with a ranking score covering several categories, which included fees, team and firm experience, issuer knowledge, pricing execution, credit and saving strategies, and market distribution. And as Mr. Anderson pointed out, and I think Councilmember Lara is pointing out, there was a difference in fee that was addressed through the scoring. The lowest fee firm received the highest score possible for fee, and the Raymond James and Cabrera proposal received the second lowest score, as Mr. Anderson pointed out, based on their evaluation and proposed fee. In terms of experience specifically, the Raymond James proposal, which as I evaluated, I assumed the Raymond James proposal and their experience specifically with the tax allocation bonds and working knowledge of their underwriter. They had the strongest proposal of post dissolution or redevelopment in terms of experience, having issued about 25 tax allocation bonds over a 5-year period that were requested, where I think the two joint proposals provided an increase in value to the successor agency was on issuer knowledge. To Mr. Anderson's point, having a team with a clear understanding of the issues related to the LA County deferral, the water authorities, acquisition of the tax allocation bonds was certainly important, but also important in this discussion was the fact that when the 2001 tax allocation bonds were issued, they were not issued with a bond rating. And so having a firm with substantial tax allocation bond experience and knowledge of the city, we viewed as, or I viewed as very important, as the need for the agency to receive the highest rating possible to maximize savings was fundamental to our strategy in dealing with the county and its deferral issues. In their proposals, the other area where they scored highest is in credit and savings analysis. And they were the only joint proposal that when asked to provide a credit analysis or a sample, they were the only ones that actually looked at the city of Pico Rivera. The others provided samples of other organizations in school. And so as such, they scored higher there. In total, their scoring was slightly higher than other firms. Raymond James Cabrera scored 13 out of, I think, 15 points. Second was Ramirez at 12, and third was Stiefel at 11. The other two firms, Hilltop and Piper, were eliminated from the process based on a few things. Most importantly, the lack of understanding of the complexity of the transaction at hand. And so we basically shortlisted the three that were there. And in, I think, fairness to Councilmember Lara's questions, I did ask if the Cabrera-Raymond James joint proposal roughly a few months ago, if they would consider a revised fee proposal. The response I got back was they would like to stick with the fee proposal as presented. And so the score reflects that. I think the other issue that Mr. Anderson was referencing is this transaction has been a start and stop for a number of years that I've been involved in it. We've had a change of staff with Mr. Carrasco leaving the city. I think we were very close to presenting this item to this board about a year ago. And with his departure, we had a little bit delay. And I think as the council may be aware, we had a little issue with the county moving forward and talking to the Department of Finance without the successor agency's involvement, which somewhat accelerated our process to where we are today. And on top of that, when we submitted the documents to the Department of Finance expecting a 60-day review period, which is fairly standard for them, they actually approved the transaction in about 2 weeks, further accelerating us to this date today. But I'm prepared to answer any questions that council may have
Yes, sir.
about the evaluations. Since I
In your due
prepared.
diligence, did you consider the previous jobs that Cabrera had, the job that they had with the El Rancho Unified School District and why it was discontinued?
No, Mr. Mayor, I did not. That was not part of our evaluation criteria. And in retrospect, hearing the comments today, honestly, this may have been the first time I've heard about it. When we go out and ask underwriting firms to provide a level of experience, we typically ask for experience within specific transactions, and we typically see a bifurcation of that work between school districts and cities. It's fairly common.
We're also considering, or just, there was a contract that was awarded by the city to Cabrera Capital, for lobbying services. And as I understand it, the firm doesn't have a charter to be able to do that kind of work. And in fact, what they did was that they failed to perform on that contract. Were you aware of that?
No, Mr. Mayor, I was not.
Okay. Well, those are things that we're going to have to take into consideration, no?
The council should take all things into consider, Mr. Mayor, as you're pointing out. I do want to point out one thing. I think that may provide, a level of comfort to the council. As municipal advisors, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the agency. Of all the members of a financing team, only the municipal advisors have it. And we will work with anyone that the board feels comfortable with. And
Okay.
our job is to ensure that they do a good job regardless. And, we'd be happy to, work with the staff and the board as you guys see fit to move this item forward.
Sir, you have that, and then council.
Yes, sir. This is Councilmember Lara. I have a question for you in regards to experience in the Ramirez Group. It's my understanding that the city issued bonds about 2 to 3 years ago in regards to roads, right, City Manager?
That is correct.
Who is the issuing underwriter for that?
It was Ramirez.
Yeah, so you would think that the last credible underwriter would have the most experience in regards to the finances of the city, right?
Well, we can't
Well,
go that, okay.
well, I'm just pointing out.
Yeah, well, no, we can't speculate on that. Sir?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to chime in on one point to clarify, is whoever you select as an underwriter, it's a professional services contract. Unlike other contracts where you are required to evaluate the lowest responsible bidder, in a professional services contract, the lowest price is not the driving force. There are other factors that the council may consider and should consider.
Reputation and performance.
Well, that I'm not looking to define what those circumstances are. That's for the council. But certainly, I don't want to give the impression that price is at the top of the list, so.
And again, I don't think that that's one of the items that we're talking about right now. Okay, sir, how do you want to end this?
We're still having discussion.
Let's have a.
Okay,
Well, I gave 2 recommendations.
We're still having discussion.
okay.
Let's.
Mayor, I want to bring clarity for my own peace of mind. And as one of the 5 members here of the council, I want to address the municipal advisors that a key component in making recommendations to city staff is competency of a firm, which is obvious, and current and past reputation. To be blind to the fact of whether a positive or a negative reputation exists is substandard. And I would recommend that the municipal advisors pay attention to this fact. And my words, pay attention to past and current reputation of a firm. Because at the end of the day, the city's reputation will suffer. I see this as an opportunity for this city council to prevent a faux pas, a major faux pas. So again, refinance of bonds, I encourage the entire city council to move forward with that because it's substantial savings. But to move forward with a firm that has a proper reputation and that is competent. Thank you.
If I may make a quick comment, I don't agree with my colleague's suggestion of including a mayor or a designee or any of our council being involved in the rating, because that would further muddy the waters, so to speak. So I don't feel that we should be involved, the council or mayor pro tem, should be involved in any of this rating process.
Sir?
Yeah, I just got some comments, questions for our Urban Futures CEO. I didn't catch his name. What was his name?
Michael Bush.
Michael. Mr. Bush, how long you been in business? Urban Futures?
40, this is our 49th year.
And how many cities have you worked and advised in the region, and what would they be?
I've been with the firm for 15 years. And I would say I've probably worked with 200.
200 of cities, and a majority of here in LA County, or in the state or other states?
Statewide, sir, so mostly, I actually all in California, but I've probably worked with 40% of the cities in LA County.
And you mentioned you have a fiduciary responsibility, and you also stated that you independently scored these items, and you would bet your reputation on this process and recommendation?
That's a fair question, actually. So we, as I mentioned, we have a fiduciary responsibility and a duty of loyalty. Councilmember, I take that very seriously. I evaluated the proposals with honesty, integrity, and with the information that I had available.
So when, your reputation or misguided negative allegations are presented, I'm sure that you take it personal, don't you?
Council member,
I think the comments being made are certainly worthy of discussion, and ultimately, as the city's advisor, we want to move forward with a recommendation that the board feels comfortable with.
Yeah.
And again, as your fiduciary in the transaction, our job is to ensure that the deal gets done well and appropriately and up to par. If the board or council has a concern about an underwriter, we definitely would take that into consideration in the process.
How long have you been working with the city?
I think about 4 years now on this specific item.
So you were involved in the last recommendation for the previous underwriter that was stated, Ramirez?
That's correct, sir. I was the municipal advisor on the street financing.
And did you have any issues then as to who and why they were recommended?
No, sir. I've actually, worked on several transactions with that firm. I've not found an issue with them.
And your recommendation to be, in process was similar, and, you based it on experience, you based it on their proposal and their knowledge of the city?
That transaction, if I recall correctly, was not completed through a competitive process. The underwriting firm Ramirez was a direct hire by the city, and my job was just to follow the transaction as the city's fiduciary.
So if there was a potential question as to a process, that seems to you open up a can of worms of how that recommendation came through.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
I'm saying that if there's a question as to process, and you're mentioning that came a little bit different in this one, if we should question a process and the recommendation and approval of Ramirez would, I guess I shouldn't ask you the question, but if there should be a concern of a recommendation, if the process was where it was just specifically recommended, that should be an issue of concern. Sir, I just wanted to clarify that I understand my colleagues' concerns and questions and the clarity that they want to put forward. I'm glad that our legal counsel actually clarified the difference between a low bid, a sealed bid, a professional service contract, because unfortunately that's always misunderstood up here as to the different levels, and it's not always about the lowest price, it's about the experience. And if we always go with low price, doesn't always mean that we get the best experience. And I understand, reading the report, that this joint proposal between Raymond James and Cabrera Capital, and as you stated, you based it on experience, knowledge, information, and your independence, see no bias into the recommendation and or interference with the recommendation.
That is correct. There was no staff interference in my evaluation of the proposals, or request beyond my review.
Yeah. So just again, I just wanted to clarify a few things that were stated and said, and for myself, we look upon the experts. In this case, we hired financial advisors that us council approved. You're one of them that provide us their expert advice on this. None of us up here are experts in this field. And so to not to say that anyone's pretending, but to pretend to be, that's, we'd be making false statements. But in reality, it's just we depend on staff to develop a process, a fair process, an objective process. And so, I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, we are mindful of trying to discredit or allege wrongdoing just based on personality versus or individual versus a firm or firms that have been in the business from my reading the report for quite some time. So, as stated, this is important for our community. We stand to save, over $15 million in this refinance. We all approved on a 4-1, understanding the difference in what is pension obligation bonds, tax allocation refunds bonds. We understand that clearly, the importance, the value, understanding that we need to take advantage of some rates before they change right now. Time is of essence. And so whether Ramirez and other parties, Piper, I think it was, forgot the other names, but were recommended, at the end of the day, whomever it was, I'm ready to support and approve anyone. In this case, Raymond James and Cabrera Capital have been recommended, and I respect, and as I always have, experts. I respect staff, and I believe in their integrity, and I believe in their objective process. And to say otherwise, and again, I respect my colleagues' opinions and viewpoints, but to say otherwise and to allege otherwise, it's just not a fair thing to do when we were not involved in this process. Quite frankly, I would say that, as I hear my colleagues and talking about engagement and involvement in this process, I just want to remind us that, for us to insert ourselves in an independent process based on, and provide our personal opinions of individuals and make a conclusion of what is best for the city when this whole process, took time. We've been discussing this for years, as you recall, Mayor, and we've been doing our due diligence. This is not a new subject that just got thrown away, but I also want to outline, Mayor, that, in referencing the city code of conduct that we created and I signed as mayor last year, and Mayor, you supported and advocated for that, Section 3, conduct of members. Section 4, respect the process. Section 13, council general powers and responsibilities, specifically Section 3. The code reads, the city council determines the policies of the city with advice, information, and analysis provided by city staff, the public, boards, commissions, and committees, except where provided by city ordinance. Individual members shall not interfere with the administrative functions of the city or the professional duties of the city manager and her staff. I just want to make sure that we are mindful of that. And if any one individual has an issue with one member of a firm, I'm not here to hire a member. I'm here to hire the firm or recommend the firm. So we just got to be mindful. We talk about accountability, we talk about transparency, and we talk about, engagement, involvement with a process. Let's be mindful and respect what we advocate, and we hold ourselves in that standard. I hold myself, we all hold ourselves accountable, and to say otherwise that this process is tainted and go based on our opinion, based on the expert advice and staff and what they've done, I have an issue with that. But again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. So I think, I'm ready to call the question, and wherever we go, we go.
Well, hold on. I wish that you would go further into the code of ethics situation, because one of the things that obviously bothered me is that your possible violation of the code of ethics by characterizing the comments and questions of council members as you did.
Mr. Mayor, I just,
Okay,
we all entitled to our
okay, and the other
opinions,
thing
right?
again is that, you did characterize it in that kind of way, so again, I feel that, you know, if you read again, that you may have violated that. And there was no point of obtaining it. There was questions. Okay, you came up with that, you know, the summation in terms of obtaining it. Now, we have a couple of choices here, because it's still open here. We could vote on these items, okay? Or what you could do is that you could request and seek a second to reevaluate the system.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to call for the question.
No,
so we can
no,
vote on it.
with all due respect,
I would second that. There's a lot of.
I have some questions for Mr. Bush, because a couple of things were impugned.
If I just may-
Mr.
Wait,
Bush,
hold on,
excuse
no,
me,
no.
point of order.
No, point of order. I
Wait,
just want to clarify.
are you asking for legal counsel?
So point of clarification, I called,
We have a motion on the floor.
I called the question.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a second. There's been a request to call the question. And that.
I have more
If the
questions.
support is there, it's not. If not, let's just move on. Why,
These are
you know.
I'm trying to give my
Interrogation.
What was it?
guidance to the council and.
Yeah, I want-
Point of order, no interruptions, please. One at a time.
Okay,
I have questions.
yes,
And I think, you know, ultimately, we're responsible. We're the fiduciary,
fiduciary, yes.
period. We're given over 200 pages with these RFPs, and we're expected to read them and go through with them. Now, several residents pointed out potential conflicts of interest. Don't insult my intelligence by telling me I can't connect the dots. I can connect the dots. Mr. Bush, based upon your experience of interacting with 200 cities, is it common to use an RFP that's over 2 years of age?
I think it's not uncommon to have dated proposals.
But it's not
for a
common,
variety
right?
of-
But
for a
it's not
variety of
common,
reasons.
correct?
I would say that this one is probably on the outside of what we would normally see.
So it's
A year
uncommon.
or so would not be uncommon. 2 years would probably be a little bit uncommon.
Thank you. So it's uncommon. Secondly, if council wanted to create a side committee consisting of the city manager, the finance director, and members from the city council to interview and score the underwriters, have you seen that before in the 200 cities that you've dealt with?
Not that I can think of, Councilmember, off the top of my head.
Okay, but would there be anything to bar that process from taking place?
No, sir. I would assume that the council and staff can choose the procurement process that they choose.
Fine. So I want to amend my recommendation. Instead of it just being designated to the mayor or his designee, that we have oral interviews by
Is it
the
a
full
recommendation,
council.
or are you, what are you asking for?
My recommendation, I ask for two things. That we scrap the RFP, because it's 2 years old. That we issue a new RFP for those bonds. And secondly, that we just have oral interviews of all the underwriters with the full council present and the public present, so that there's some transparency to this. Because what really tipped me off is when that gentleman from Columbia got up there and I asked him, did you score this? Did you recommend Cabrera? And he said, no, he did not. He did not score Cabrera on top.
Councilman?
Someone else did. Thank you.
Okay, all right. You have a motion on the floor? As the council asked, you have a motion on the floor?
Mayor, if I may.
Well, we have a motion on the floor, which is the one
Yeah.
made by Councilmember Camacho.
Yeah.
Seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Lara has requested action, but not made a motion.
Yes.
So let me put
And that would, and if I may, Mr. Mayor, because.
You can't make recommendations, you got to make motions.
That's fine, that's fine. I'll
Mayor,
put it
if I
in the
may?
language to adopt it. I know how to make a motion. Or should we vote on the first motion first?
It's up
And what was
it's up
that
to the
motion?
pleasure of the
Well,
council.
yours came first.
Okay.
Well, no, and Mayor, with all due respect, Councilmember Lara did make a motion, but that was not seconded.
Well, I didn't ask
There was
for a
no
second.
chance to
I didn't
ask for a
ask
second,
No.
okay? Okay,
Then,
okay. Do we have a second?
but you do have a motion on the floor right now that does have a second.
Oh,
What's that motion? Can you repeat their motion? Let's vote on it so we can move on to the next
The
one.
motion from Councilmember Camacho was to approve this item as presented, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem.
okay.
If I may, Mayor.
Vote.
No, Mayor, I would like to share why I second. I feel there's a lot of accusations made on different parties here. And we hired a firm to independently review and fly this RFP. In my knowledge, I don't know of any agency that would intentionally do work to submit a low bid and get weeded out. That's a lot of work to submit any application. So there are a lot of accusations, allegations that are being thrown out here. Whether a person had a good reputation, bad reputation, false RFP, not. I feel that this firm has a good reputation. They solicited the RFP. They scored it. They gave recommendations to staff. The firm that we are being recommended right now is not the high bid, not the lowest bid, mid-range. This is a collaboration of multiple people, and there are some allegations of people being involved. I don't think that we, a council, should be involved. We don't know that Councilmember Lara has a relationship with Ramirez firm.
I have no relationship.
So there's a lot of allegations, there's a lot of things that could be that we don't know. So I feel that it's important for us, we need to move forward with this. So that way we can take advantage of the interest rates that are low currently. If we
Can you
keep
repeat your
kicking the
motion?
bucket, it's going to keep moving.
So my motion is what the recommendation of staff is. At the end of the day, if the council wishes to go a different direction, I would support anything that's going to improve our city. I just can't sit back here and allow and not say anything that everything has been said is based on opinion, not fact, and to discredit a process, it's unfortunate. So the motion is on the floor as recommended.
Okay, so
Let's vote.
So we have a vote on number 7.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
We're voting to approve Cabrera?
No, you have to.
The motion.
No. No, I'm not voting to approve Cabrera.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lutz?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
No.
Motion fails.
So at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we have oral interviews before the full council, and that at that point in time, we make a recommendation.
Okay, that's out of order.
Okay.
Okay. Number 9.
We do have a motion.
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Mayor, with all due
I just
respect,
need a second. Yes.
with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, that motion, the first motion failed, doesn't mean the item's concluded.
Correct.
There is a motion now being made by Councilmember Lara for a different alternative process.
Correct.
And why don't we try and get that motion on the floor and see if there's a
I
second?
disagree with that process. I feel the council, not one of us members should be involved in it should be an independent solicitation, not one member may.
I'm arguing for transparency.
Why don't we let the council member make his motion? And this way, if there's questions or clarifications requested, or substitutes to that motion, or friendly amendments to that motion, they may be made. But right now, we're trying to get the opportunity to have Councilmember Lara make his motion.
My motion is that we have oral interviews in front of the full council, that we keep the 5 proposals. We have them come in, we do oral interviews, we can question them, and then we make a selection. That's my motion. And the second part of that is that we reissue that 2-year-old RFP. If you're okay with that. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you.
Is there any question or debate on that motion? If not, then the clerk can read the roll.
Will this further delay the process?
Yeah. I believe it will. I'm not the person in the chair, so.
Yes,
It will. It probably will.
It will.
And it also is going to impact the current interest rates. And as this process moves down the line, and again, I'm not the finance person, so I'm not looking to step on Ms. Garcia's toes, but the city loses money.
Council, we're not asking for financial advice, it's legal.
I know.
Okay?
Now,
All
that's why
right.
I'm going to turn to Ms. Garcia.
Okay, so, Councilman, you have 9, all right? We second it. Now, what I need from you is that I need from you to make a motion on something, okay? And you can't make recommendations and pull it out. There has to be an action.
Legal counsel? Did I make a motion?
Mayor, may I address that question? Yes. Councilmember Lara made a motion.
Did I get a second?
You got a second.
Can we go to a vote?
Well, that's up to the chair.
Well, that's my recommendation, Mayor. That we
Mayor
go-
still runs the meeting, and that's why we always ask, Mr. Mayor, may I address a question? So the mayor's in charge of the meeting. Roll
Have a
call.
vote?
Councilmember Camacho?
The motion is very clear and the second is very clear to me. So yes, I've never been involved in RFP. I would never involve myself in RFP. I would never try to change the course of a recommendation. But if we're going to have everyone here for the sake of transparency and presentation of the public in here, I'm always for transparency and accountability and yes on that.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
No.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ready for number 9?
I don't know. I pulled number 9 because City Manager Steve Carmona, could you give us some background to number 9, please?
It's just resolutions.
Sure, I think I'm going to turn over to Director Garcia, but I'm not too sure we can move forward with this one without the selection of underwriters, so.
Copy that. Okay. So if this item is moot, then we just continue, right, to the next item. Item number 11?
Same.
It's the same, it's moot, right? Thank you. My items are done.
Okay. So we need to have a vote on these. Yeah?
I don't know what the council's pleasure is on the items. If you want to follow the same process to have
Well-
each of the various bond issuances go through that process, then that would seem to be, we need a motion on item number 9.
Yeah.
The same motion for item number 11.
Finance Director Garcia, could you weigh in?
Yes, I'd like to have the member from Stradling, our Disclosure Council, make comments as to whether we can actually continue these two items, number 9 and number 11.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Good evening. Yeah, my name is Nick Yeager. I'm from Stradling. We serve as bond counsel to the city on the tax allocation bond refunding. So I guess is the question, can we continue the item or, I'm sorry, what?
So can we actually vote on the item, or does it have to continue and be voted on at the same time as we select an underwriter for each of for this refinancing?
Ultimately, that would be up to the council. It would be possible to vote on this item number 9. We would just have to make some changes to the resolution and one of the documents, the bond purchase agreement, because that does refer to Raymond James and Cabrera Capital as the underwriters. Depending on the council's preference, we could discuss the item and still approve it with the amendment that.
Mr. City Manager, do you want to withdraw the motion and?
No, I think we can move forward with this, and then we come back with the selection of the underwriter at a
Okay.
later time.
All right.
So before you then is this item number 9 is a resolution related to the tax allocation refunding bonds. This is the second step in the council's approval of issuing the bonds. The first was taken a few months ago. With this resolution, it approves 3 documents. One is the preliminary official statement. That's a document that is used by the underwriter to market the bonds, for sale. The preliminary official statement's required by the federal securities laws to disclose all material information about the bonds to potential investors. It also requires that the city council approve the preliminary official statement, so that's why we're here before you and why it was included in the agenda item. The preliminary official statement is not final as of now, so if there are any comments from the council about material information, they can be directed to staff who will work with us and the city's disclosure council to make sure that gets in there. The second document this resolution approves is a continuing disclosure certificate. Also under the federal securities laws, the city is required to provide certain ongoing information related to the successor agency and the bonds while the bonds are outstanding. So this document describes that. The final item, and this is what I referenced earlier about we'd have to amend, is a bond purchase agreement with the underwriters. This is the actual agreement between the successor agency and the underwriters for the sale of the bonds. lays out the terms for the sale and certain other things. And so I think what we would have to do, and I defer to the city attorney and staff, but I think we would have to amend the resolution to not specifically refer to the underwriters by name and you know, refer to underwriters chosen or an underwriter chosen.
And you've chosen to withdraw.
Yes, we can move forward without the selection of the underwriters to a later date. I think there's just too much importance in here. I think there's a potential to save $30 million to the city, and in 2026 return $750,000 in sales tax revenue. So I think we definitely have to continue to move forward.
I concur.
With regard to 11, would you want to do the same thing?
Same thing.
Yes, okay.
So I'd like to make the motion that we adopt items number 9 and 11.
Number 9 and 11?
I'm sorry to.
Oh, they're withdrawing it. Okay.
Oh, I thought we were moving on with it.
Yeah, we're going to move on, but we're going to take out, amend the resolution to take out the selection of the underwriter.
Just for some clarity, because I think it's semantics. City manager, would you like us to vote on items 9 and 11 tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
But I apologize to interject.
No, that's fine. No.
The
With
text
an
of-
amendment.
Yeah, the text of the resolution that was recommended for approval references the underwriters by name. So I believe we would need to.
Amend.
The motion would need to consider, you know, amending that to refer to underwriters to be chosen by the city council as opposed to by name. That was my only rejection.
That's.
Guess what?
That is what it is, yes.
That's the way it is. Explain to me what? Are you withdrawing it or what?
So I'd like to withdraw my initial motion, because my initial motion just blanketed items 9 and 11. But it seems like the correct motion, based upon bound counsel, is to approve items 9 and 11, however, with the caveat that the bond underwriter of Raymond, James, and Cabrera is removed.
No, we can't do that. Okay, we can't do that. Okay, we're going to have to vote.
Yes, we can.
Yes or no on 9 and 11.
With an amendment.
Yes, with the amendment.
But you're withdrawing the.
No, sir. The motion is to approve the item, but we are removing the selection of the underwriter until a later date.
Okay.
Can we put it to a vote now?
Okay, but I just want to make sure legal counsel has my motion down pat. Thank you. I have a second.
Okay.
The vote, please. I'm sorry, my apologies.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Councilmember Camacho,
Yes, very clear.
Councilmember Laura,
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now, we have 11, or is that?
We approved already.
As I understood, that motion to cover items number 9 and 11.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We go to a regular agenda, which we don't, so we have nothing there. So we have city managers' staff reports?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. New business, garage utility rooms for discussion, August 10th, 2021. Why are we holding it to August?
Staff needed additional time.
Okay. Old business. Now, as I understand old business, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be using it for our committee reports. So going in alphabetical order, number health committee report?
Yeah, but briefly, just a point of clarification, because I may have missed my on-ramp. I have a motion that I want to bring forth and get a second for a future city council meeting. Should I have done that in new business?
You could do that,
New business.
okay.
Okay, because I thought we.
Not right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell me when I can do that.
Okay,
I don't
I'll
wanna
tell you.
I don't want to miss the.
No, you won't miss, okay?
Just point of clarification, are we skipping new business and going to old business?
No, the new business is that there's no discussion until August 10th.
No, new business is one item.
Yes.
There put by staff. Doesn't say that we don't have new business.
Right.
So we still have new business to discuss.
Yes, yes.
Yes, but we need to be able to get a second on it?
Yes. No.
To agendize it?
New business is, remember, the good of the order.
The good of the order is now
that
being
we
placed by
had,
new business?
That you recommended that we put new business, old business.
Is that right?
New business.
Okay. So let's go down the line here. New business.
Thank you. I did want to share today that we visited the Smith Park pool. We did have some media come from Fox News 11, which was really exciting. I don't know that my colleagues or the city were even aware of the disrepair that the state of the swimming pool was in. And so people have reached out, and hopefully we can. I know that we recently received federal funds from our Congresswoman Sanchez, and I wanted to request or ask the city manager, could we use some of these federal funds or any other funds that are coming in currently, rather than wait for our grant to come in to help do the minimum to open our pool?
Yeah, there's certain categories that we can utilize the American Rescue Plan money. They have to be related to COVID-19 impacts, infrastructure. This is definitely something that we do want to clarify, but we're also looking at other options, not only internally, seeing if we have some additional surplus money that we can dedicate. We're waiting for some final numbers to come in the next couple months. In addition, we're awaiting word on some various grants that we have asked for and requested for Senator Archuleta's office as well.
In addition, let's say a donor wants to give money to support our pool effort. Would that be possible through the city, given we're not a nonprofit type organization? Would we have to go through an organization, or how would we facilitate that?
I'm not too sure. I'll defer that to our Director of Finance to answer that question, and possibly our legal counsel. But one thing I do want to point out that tomorrow we are bringing a structural engineer out to assess the pool. In addition to the boilers, that's what I call kind of the phase one approach to get it open as soon as possible. But we also want to see, because water has been leaking underneath the pool for quite some time, we want to see if there's been any compromise in the structure, not only directly under the pool, but the adjacent building. So we'll be bringing that assessment fairly soon, just to make sure that if it's just the boilers, we want to keep it to that. But if there's something else, we want to make sure that council is fully aware of those issues.
Yes, in terms of the donations, I think we'd have to work with the city attorney's office to first bring forward a donations policy to council to make sure that it is totally transparent and that the donations are used specifically for the intended uses of the pool repairs.
Got it. Thank you. With that, I'd like to request the staff to continue to look into receiving the donations as well as other funds for us to expedite and see how soon we can open our swimming pool. If I can get a second.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to second that and just add a comment to that.
Yes.
As you mentioned, and I've mentioned we've had the discussion about the pool repairs, and we were talking about the complete, basically remodel pool of the cost of $10 million. And at the last council meeting, I mentioned and asked whether we can just focus on the boilers and other additional ADA improvements without getting caught up in the $2 million, which is quite frankly just not feasible quite at this time to do a complete remodel of a pool. So to go with the Mayor Pro Tem's comments, can we agendize, if I can amend your second, agendize this item to our next council meeting to specifically discuss the replacement of the boilers, in addition to other ADA requirements. In addition to that, what funding sources we're going to use. As you stated, Senator Archuleta is working to try to get some funds from the state, but we can't wait and find out, because that's what we were doing in the past, asking for grants. Unfortunately, we didn't get them. And so we can prioritize, whether it be through the $50 million provided recently by the Congresswoman or other additional funds. I know we've discussed the fact that we have a surplus and potential other revenues. I think it's a priority that we should allocate. So again, we can agendize that item as such, specifically to determine, let's get this pool fixed and open up by next summer. Obviously, this summer's done.
Yeah, definitely we'll do that. I want to make an exception here. As you know, when you get a second, it's to discuss the item, but we want to bring an action item so council can make some decisions on an appropriate approach to get the pool open.
So the discussion would be the boilers, improvements, and funding sources.
Yeah. The other unknown, which could come at a later time, is the structural engineer's assessment of what could be happening underneath the pool.
That's great.
Well, Mr. City Manager, would an independent safety inspector, looking at it and, just determining what we can work on and how we can do it, just to incrementally do it, would that?
Yes, that is what's being suggested as a kind of a phase one approach, just to get it open in the safest possible manner.
Yes, okay, because I'm prepared to tell my story of the old days here.
Okay.
No, not necessary? Okay.
Just in regards to that,
The old days or what?
No, into the
Okay.
pool repairs. I had already agendized this item. In fact, I'm looking at our minutes that we approved on June 22nd. I'll read it. Councilmember Lara moved to agendize the Smith Park swimming pool repairs for further discussion at a future meeting, seconded by Councilmember Lutz. We had already talked about this, and we agendized this item. I was surprised when I saw the agenda that this wasn't on there.
So that said, agendized it for the next meeting was it August?
And that's the original time that we had said we'll bring it back to August.
Thank you.
In addition, my question to possible donations for donors that may want to pitch in to assist us if we didn't get grants. So looking into the funding, alternative funding sources.
Okay. Okay, shall we make it clear?
It's clear.
Okay, we got a second on it, so it will be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Councilman, I asked you about which we agendized when we did there, and I didn't hear that. Okay, so it was a situation of a missed opportunity there.
It's on the minutes.
Okay.
I mean, I can't do everything, sir.
Okay. Who's next? Camacho?
Are you done? Okay, yeah. Okay. No.
Oh, you're, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we got this pool repair issue cleared. I just want to once again thank Congresswoman Linda Sanchez. I'm very informal with her, but for, advocating not only for the Whittier Dam Safety Improvement Project that we discussed and we had a presentation, but also advocating, and we got $15 million for us. And it was stated before, and I know we've discussed, and we had our council study session, retreat, if you will, strategical planning, that we discussed priorities. I would like to also request, if I get a second, for us to do a study session to get more specific as to how we're going to spend the $50 million in addition to what we have available. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, whether it be the pool, whether it be green space, whether it be economic development, which we're prioritizing. I know some of these funds can go also to backfill some of the salaries that were done. But I think now we need to get specific as to what our priorities are. The community is asking, they see the money coming in, and we need to be specific into a study session. If I can get a second for us to have a
I
second.
second.
We all do. It's a great idea. Good idea.
I'm glad that we're all in sync on this one, as we should be and moving forward. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to add that the LA County Board of Supervisors, through a motion today, proclaimed July as Parks Make Life Better Month, as we are a community in the city that promote parks make life better, and we understand the value of the parks. But as we heard the presentation, as to the Whittier Dam Safety Improvement Project, which is a needed project, we're close, and I've said this before, and I've been talking about this for some time, is that we're going to lose close to 40% of our green space. We need to begin to put our priorities forward and begin to provide what the community desires, the service, the green space. We're built-out cities, but now we're going to lose Streamland Park, and yet we've been generally discussing, but let's get specific. Let's get down to priorities. and determine that, hey, what is it? Are we working with the school district in partnership? I led the effort to create Pico Park as a passive park, which you finally did, and I think it's a great joint use agreement. I think it's a model that we can utilize, but we need to figure this out and determine what space is available. So I just want to put out there that we need to start prioritizing our green space because our kids are going to have less, and our families are going to get less green space to play and utilize here.
In fact, we've talked about this, so I realize the importance of it. Is it possible that the Economic Development and Community Service Committee can get together so then we can do it? Because again, it was very clear that the Congresswoman said the people that were impacted, by this.
Absolutely. We got that's a priority of ours. We got to figure out pool's important, recreational opportunities are important, and we need to figure it out. So, staff, if we can put together this joint meeting as soon as possible, we can start talking about the green space and move forward on that. In addition to that, I know there's been same subject matter, but there's been an interest for the school district to utilize some of our green space because also they're doing some work. I was speaking to the new athletic director and some parks commissioners about utilizing space. I know with Director Ugar, we've had this a previous meeting with the Parks and Recs. I want to make sure that we, once again, green space opportunity here, utilizing the parks. I know it's tough. I know it's going to be a challenge. It's a challenge as it is because of the many users that we have in our parks. But we got to come up with some plans because green space is being lost, and we need to continue working with our school district. So if we can follow up on that meeting that we had, Director Ugar, so we can get it's going. And now that we have the joint group here, the group meetings will make that happen. Lastly, and it's all under new business, quite frankly, and this is actually two items. One, just wanted to point out, and I would like to our lieutenant to elaborate. We have National Night Out coming up in August. It's a yearly event that we did, that many cities and communities do to promote the relationship between law enforcement, the community, our safety. We had a meeting recently thanking both Sheriff Villanueva, Adjourn's Insurance, and Pastor Marvin to bring us together. And Sheriff Villanueva will bring in 1,000 backpacks to give away. And we concluded to do a joint event with him, which probably be the largest national night out in the region. Lieutenant, can you elaborate on that discussion and how would that take place and what you've been doing with staff on that partnership?
Sure, yes, thank you. It's been many years now that it's celebrated nationally, the communities stand against crime, and it's called National Night Out, and it occurs on the first Tuesday of every August. And the premise behind it is for the communities to shut their doors and come together in the street and celebrate the unity of the community. And so we will be doing that this year in the city of Pico, and that will take place on the first Tuesday of August, and we're going to be doing it in front of City Hall. This year, we have been fortunate enough, in past years, we have used one of the summer series concerts as a night to come together because those are large events in the city of Pico. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic and recently opening up, that hopefully the concerts in the park will come back. But before they do, we are going to still celebrate this summer on that first Tuesday. And here, we're going to do this year, the Sheriff's Office has partnered with Adriana's Insurance, who will be providing backpacks to some of the children that will be coming out, and we'll have some displays of different interesting things to look at that we offer with the Sheriff's Department. We'll have our mounted unit. We'll have patrol cars out there. We recently had our special problems team certified on bike patrol. So we will have our sheriff's bikes out there to display to everybody. And it's just there will be a band and music and food. And so it'll be a nice time for everybody to come together. We've been working with city staff. They are going to assist with the coordination and the logistics. And then, of course, the Sheriff's Department will be there, not only for public safety, but also to engage with the community because we're standing with them. against crime. And now actually we're also celebrating summer and celebrating the fact that we can come together. So that will take place, and the flyer should be coming out shortly. Our community relations deputy is working with the city staff to come up with a flyer, and so keep an eye out for that on social media, and it should be a good night.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I mean, National Night was a great event. I participated in quite a few of them, and it's a great opportunity to bring the community together and to have the sheriff come and with the partners to bring the backpack. I think it's an added benefit. And as you stated, we haven't had a gathering in quite some time, so technically this will probably be actually it will be the first event that we bring the community together, and I think it's something great to support. Lastly, thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick, but it's a question back to the lieutenant and staff in related to homelessness. I know we have dedicated staff, we have dedicated deputy. We've been working for many years to try to address that concern that many residents have. We recognize the sensitivity of it, the mental illness aspect of it. But in addition to that, there's a lot of individuals who are there drinking and creating other havoc. I know that I'm not in favor of having a homeless shelter in our city, and I know when the city of Whittier wanted to build a homeless shelter on their property in an unincorporated area, but on our side of the 605 freeway, we fought against it, and we were like, you know what, this is not happening. Nonetheless, we've been, as we use compassionately aggressive, working and making sure that we provide the services to our homeless population and get them the services that they need. However, I've noticed, Lieutenant, that we have certain hotspot areas that are pretty identifiable, and it seems like we're getting that surge back again. They're there longer, they're camping, they're placing. So I want us to see if maybe maybe the next council meeting, that we get a presentation as to where we are with the homeless population and what we're doing, because I don't want this, as it is, we have an issue with a lot of homeless in our community, but we just don't want that surge to get to the problem that we need to now allocate more resources than we already have. So with that.
Councilman, one of the things that I wanted to actually assign was the city of LA has introduced some new ordinances, some new homeless ordinances. And, I would like the Health and Safety Committee to evaluate those ordinances to see if there's anything applicable that we can use in the city.
Health and Safety Committee?
You want this to be a joint effort?
Yes.
I think that's appropriate. I know that the LA City Council took a very hardline approach in regards to right-of-way, in regards to ADA access, in regards to camping. And I think we need to look at their approach, because I'm in favor of that also. And I share the sentiments of Councilmember Gustavo Camacho.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. First and foremost, I guess we're under new business, right? Okay. I want to agendize on our next city council meeting a vote on term limits. And I want there to be a 12-year lifetime. I think it's time that we limit our power as city council members. Can I get a second? Thank you. Number two.
Well, now, let's make it clear, so it's on the new business agenda, or?
So that is it clear, Mr. City Manager, that we want this item agendized on the next city council meeting to vote on city council in terms of whether we are for or against a 12-year lifetime term limit?
Yeah, is this going to be an exception? Again, when there's a second, it's to agendize it for discussion, not for action.
Yes.
Well, legal counsel, could something be agendized for action also? If there was a second?
Again, following the past practice of the council, because let's assume for the moment that is their support to do so. Then what would have to happen is there would have to be an ordinance that is drafted. We'd have to go through the municipal code.
Fair enough. Discussion.
Discussion, yes.
Okay.
Because we also have to consider placing it on the ballot. Okay?
Copy that.
Okay.
My second item is I want city council to have a discussion on a lobbying ban of 10 years. So that if you worked for the city of Pico Rivera, or that if you were a city council member with the city of Pico Rivera, you are banned from bringing contracts before the city. I want a discussion on that. Could I please get a second?
I second.
Thank you. I think that's it, Mayor.
Did you get that, City Manager?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilman Lutz?
Are we discussing the reports?
Well, no. That's going to go in the other category right here. This is supposed to replace the, what is it, the order of the,
Yes.
yes.
For the sake of efficiency, I have no new business. I'll be looking forward to old business shortly.
Okay, thank you. All right. So it's up to me here. One of the more successful events that the city had was, I think it was last year, there was a job fair. We had a job fair. And, we had the students come in and we had the city there, and it was great, okay? It was great, the response that I had from my students and everything else. So, that was very successful. I feel that we're in a situation right now where we can do, or we should do, another job fair, but not just for students, but for the businesses themselves. There's a lot of for hire, okay? And again, we're going to need as much of an effort, to help along our community and businesses with it. So what I'm asking for is a second to a job fair that would include not only, the student jobs that we have for the city, but getting other businesses that are interested in it, and maybe, filling up that, the senior center, with employers.
Yeah, I think what we can do, Mayor, is we can prepare a memo outlining a timeline when we can get a job fair put together. Again, considering some of the health orders that are currently existing, we want to factor those in.
And I just said, Mr. Mayor, I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll have that.
On the basis that as been working on the workforce development.
Yes.
And in addition to, as you mentioned, local hire, but more importantly, workforce development, and also identifying and promoting the apprenticeship program, working with our trade council as well.
Mayor, if I may add, the city SASFA representative, and they are very involved in job workforce development. And I forgot to announce it earlier, if I may. They're hiring a summer youth employment program right now for any youth 14 to 24. It was posted on our Instagram social media. And so it's short-term job training for youth. And you can find that on it's SASFA, SASSFA. And we have the phone number on the social media site. So any youth looking for employment right now and employment opportunities for the summer. So I also suggest maybe reaching out to the executive director, which I can put you in contact with and partner for these types of
Okay.
collaboration.
All right. Now, the second item here is that I've been approached by one of our contractors there, and they were basically asking when we were going to have a city opening ceremony, a big city opening ceremony. And they were talking about supporting such an effort because it is so, necessary. Do we have plans for a city opening ceremony?
We were considering that, but now with the new COVID infections rising, we're kind of reassessing what that timeline could possibly be.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, can I ask you to, since you are Community Services, if you could, again, we had some of the contractors say, they were willing to chip in for an effort like that.
Sure. Like a grand reopening.
Yes, uh-huh.
In addition, to add to that, I know several businesses that a couple opened during or just before the pandemic and didn't have any grand openings. So if we could ask Michael to look into any businesses that are fairly new and need promotion to help them, which I think that falls under Councilmember Camacho's committee technically. But just to help the businesses that have survived and during the pandemic.
The other that I ask is that I had the American Legion talking about the parking problem that they have, with that area and with the construction in terms of Durfee. Is it possible that we could send one of our staff members to sit with them and discuss what they can do in terms of their parking, the options that are available?
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and the last item is about 6 months ago, we did a Zoom with the senior citizens organizations to see if they were fine and, if they needed supplies and so on. I would like to be able to do that again. Okay. So, any Saturday or any day. Let's see, there's one. There seems to be, there was a request by a contractor there that there be some kind of coordination with the Corps of Engineers. If there was some point person that we could designate when there's issues that arise and so on.
Yeah, I think that would be Sunny, who's our representative, who was just here. So we'll definitely put them in touch with them.
Okay, so it'll be who?
Somebody from the Army Corps presenter that was here today. That would be their point of contact. We'll put them in touch.
Okay, but a staff member from our city?
Oh, that's Javier Hernandez.
Okay, Javier. Do you have a PowerPoint?
Not prepared for the moment, but I could certainly work on
No, I know you'll have one. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mayor, what was the question?
The question is, are you serving as a contact right now between the contractors and the Corps of Engineers?
Yeah, not the contractors, but with the Army Corps of Engineers. I am essentially our liaison between the city and the Army Corps.
Okay, so if Mr. Lopez has a problem with, is he going to contact you?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll certainly put him in contact with the most appropriate person.
Okay, thank you. Now, that's it for me. Okay? All right, let's see, now we go to old business, and that is the committee reports. Yes, okay.
In addition to.
All right. Okay, let's begin with health.
Okay, thank you.
Could you take your mask off?
Yeah,
please?
Sure. May I ask the, Mayor, if I can ask Councilmember Lara, before we start doing the reports, I just have some old business items I just want to throw out. Do you mind if?
Oh, yeah, please.
Put it
Please
out
do,
there?
please do.
And then we can go into
Okay.
that presentation. So again, on the old business, aside from the presentations that are being made, there's some items I just want to bring forward. I know we've discussed this. We've been talking about the citywide parking permit issues. We've done an assessment. I know COVID got in the way of a lot of these things, but it's, again, a pressing issue to our community that we need to develop, whether we do nothing option and leave as is, or we determine whether we do a citywide parking permit or a district parking permit. So I think it's time for us to truly address this and tackle this, because this is the only way we're going to curtail the amount of vehicles that we have in the city. In addition, as I mentioned before, the housing laws that are being implemented in the legislation in Sacramento are allowing for higher density, limited the parking. So I think it's time for us to go back, get that analysis where we are, and make a determination what we do with the parking, because it's, again, these are the immediate services that the community needs, and we got to get to work on that. So in addition to that, I wanted to address Mr. Jose Sanchez's issue regarding Rosemead Boulevard. I know in the past, and some of us actually been to that location, and we agreed some time ago to fix one side of the road. I also supported fixing the other side of the road. At the time, staff, came back to us and told us that, the time between when Rosemead was going to get improved was very limited. So it was like 3, maybe 4 months. So I opted, and all of us at the time opted to wait into the bigger project, obviously to the dismay of Mr. Sanchez. because it was around the corner, so why spend a little bit amount of money? However, as Councilmember Bellotta brought up the issue about using reclaimed water and potentially getting a grant from the Central Basin Municipal Water District, I think it's important that we look at. But as I learned, this is going to take quite some time for us to get there. So I do want to revisit back the opportunity for us to address the Rosemead and do a temporary, if possible, fix on the other side of Rosemead until we do the bigger project. And I hope I can get a second on that and move on that direction.
You have a second.
Thank you.
ASAP, please.
That's it, Mr.
Okay.
Okay.
Report from the Health Committee?
Yeah, my apologies, City Manager, I did not pre-screen the 3 slides that I'm going to present. Please trust me in the sense that they're PG rated.
No baby pictures?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. I wanted to briefly give a brief report. It will consist in 3 parts. It will include myself in regards to our COVID-19 numbers, the vaccination, what we've done to spur and encourage people to get vaccinated, and what we should do. I will cover those first parts first, and then I'm going to hand it over to HR Director, Mr. Hudson. He's going to cover the things that we've done in regards to the city to protect our employees, to make sure that we're compliant with the OSHA, and then the arrangements we've made to allow the public to come in. The third part will be handled by Director Ugar, who will talk about the senior center and will talk about our user groups being defined as those groups who occupy our green spaces, our football, baseball, so on and so forth. Obviously, without stating, COVID-19 has just devastated the United States, if not the world. In the city of Pico Rivera, we have about 11,253 cases. We've had about 270 deaths. But there's some good news. We are doing, in my opinion, well in regards to our vaccination of the community, in some of the outreach that we've developed. But also, the residents of Pico Rivera deserve all the praise, because it is them that are going out and seeking ways to get vaccinated. In regards to those in the age range of 16 through 64 years of age, we have approximately 70% vaccination rate. Next slide, please. In regards to those who are 65 years of age and over, we have an approximate 93 vaccination rate. This is our most vulnerable population. Next slide. When you compare our vaccination rates in regards to neighboring communities such as Montebello, Downey, and Whittier, we have on par, if not slightly higher, vaccination rates than them. I want to tell you that the communities that are suffering low vaccination rates tend to be in that southeast corridor, Compton, so on and so forth. Nonetheless, we still have a population within our community that has chosen not to become vaccinated. The things that we have done at the very beginning of this pandemic, led by, at that time, Mayor Camacho, was we provided support for the seniors. We increased the home delivery of food through SASFA, and I want to thank him for doing that. Because some of my family members were recipients of that. What we did for vaccinations is that we use our social media resources. We encouraged people to get vaccinated. We made phone calls to seniors, our senior list. We called every single one of them. If we needed to make vaccinations for them, appointments, we did it. We partnered with Fiesta Taxi, who offered free rides. Now, I get it. It wasn't a widely used service. But there's 2 things that were accomplished. It provided rides for those who had no means of transportation, but it also created buzz about the vaccine. And it demonstrated city councils urging our community to get vaccinated. I am happy to say that if you want a vaccine, you can get one tomorrow through CVS, Walgreens. I want to give a special shout out to the pharmacist Parth from Pico Pharmacy. It's right by La Salsa. It's a small little pharmacy. That gentleman created his own program in regards of how he was funneling people through. Not only that, but he partnered with the El Rancho Unified School District. They are currently giving vaccinations out of the Ruben Salazar Auditorium. I stopped by recently and I talked to Mr. Centeno, Andres Centeno, a nurse who's in charge, who's facilitating that. He's an employee of El Rancho. And he said mainly now they're vaccinating people outside of the community. There's some talk that the Whittier Unified School District is going to make it mandatory, so they're seeing a lot more younger kids. If you're listening to me and if you are not vaccinated, I want to encourage you to get vaccinated. The Delta variant of COVID is going to blow through all of us. I'll take that back. I won't be so dramatic. It's going to blow through a large portion of our community. If you are vaccinated, you are safe. Okay? It will be a common code for you. If you are not vaccinated, there's a likelihood, there's a chance that you may become hospitalized. There's a 40-year-old female that we are caring for who's on a ventilator. I saw her on Sunday. I don't know if she's still alive. She's probably not going to live. She has a 20-year-old child and a 13-year-old. Their whole family got infected. Now they wish they would have had the vaccine. Don't be like that, please. So lastly, where do we need to go? I believe that there are tracks within the city of Pico Rivera that have been pointed out to us from Altamed, our partner, that we've been working with, that there are tracks within the community. Those tracks tend to be on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale. They tend to speak a different language other than English. I think it's time that we partner with the El Rancho Unified School District, with the teachers, with the classified staff, and with a group of volunteers, and we make a special flyer, like a door hanger. We go out and we hit those communities door to door, and we leave those flyers. We point the way in which they can get vaccinated and the potential. So I'm going to create another health and wellness committee, and that's going to be what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on that we need to create a small scale pamphlet, that we create volunteers and we go out on our weekends and we pass these flyers out. I think that's appropriate. Director Hudson, you're on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lara. Good evening, council members. If we could open the overview of COVID actions PowerPoint, that would be really great. That's not it. Pam, did you have it saved on the T drive?
Gabe? It's on the T drive. It's in the marketing file. I just emailed you too, Gabe, just in case.
Would you give us a verbal?
Sure.
Yes.
Great. So thank you, city council members. I apologize that we did not have that queued for you. So we did meet with the health committee last week to discuss two phases of the COVID pandemic. The first one being what our internal practices and protocols are, and the second being how that's going to impact park and recreation services. So I know that all of you are aware that the governor probably prematurely rolled out a reopening of the state of California on June 17th. All throughout the month of June, Cal OSHA and the governor were at odds. There were 4 special Cal OSHA meetings in June, which is a very significant amount for that agency. And it seemed like they were really being strong-armed into adopting the governor's reopening protocols. So on June 17th, the governor laid out his vision for reopening. We now have the slides up. However, this was a surprise. Subsequently, on June 29th, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, which is the public health agency that governs us here, indicated that they were continuing with some certain mandates, and they were advising that all individuals wear masks, even vaccinated individuals. And so once again, we had competing information coming from the various state agencies about the pandemic. So county health orders remain in effect for day camps, overnight organized children camps, K through 12 schools, community care facilities, and skilled nursing facilities. We have decided to take a balanced approach where we feel like we're keeping our staff and residents safe while also expanding programs and services. And programs involving children or senior citizens will be the ones that are most impacted by the safety protocols. One thing I do want to point out is that public health experts have been looking at the 14-day moving average of cases. 46 states, including the state of California, has seen a significant spike in COVID cases due to the Delta variant. And currently, COVID cases in California over the last 2 weeks are up 50%. Which is a very alarming trend, although the vaccines remain effective. If we can move on to the next slide, or if that's the slide I meant. So the COVID prevention program we developed in conjunction with Cal OSHA and the labor groups is going to remain in effect for the time being. And that's sort of the comprehensive all-in-one protocol and policies regarding COVID-19. And that's going to remain in effect. We did roll out in the beginning of July a policy that allows fully vaccinated staff members to be exempted from the social distancing protocols, including maintaining 6 feet of separation and wearing a mask. So you'll notice that some of our staff members are no longer masking. That's because they have been certified as vaccinated. And again, the CPP, the COVID prevention program, is our tool to mitigate the risk of COVID-19. I'm going to skip through the timeline of COVID actions pretty quickly, but if we can go to that third timeline slide. This briefly sort of summarizes what has taken place really in the new year. So you can see here on the 17th, Cal OSHA followed suit on the governor's actions in regards to the reopening. On the 29th, Los Angeles County put the brakes on it. On the 6th, we implemented OSHA's new recommendations, which allow some vaccinated staff to be exempt. And today is the first day that we decided to reopen the council chamber to the public. And we're very excited that we have the capacity to serve the public in this council chamber again. So very quickly, moving on to slide 7, City Hall is open 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. We are asking our guests to socially distance and mask. The reason we're doing that is it is impossible for us to verify the vaccine status of the visitors here to City Hall. We are, again, thrilled that we have guests with us today in the council chamber. We are asking folks to wear a mask and to socially distance. And again, we are limiting the council chamber to 50% capacity. Slide 8 shows the planned action for the city council chamber. We have staff dedicated on this side of the room and the public dedicated on the other side of the room. And it seems like this is going to be the protocol for some time until we really get a better understanding of where we're going to be with public health restrictions in the long term and the short term. I'll now turn it over to Pam to discuss the specific Park and Rec programming, which we're really excited about. And the last thing I just wanted to say is we've turned a corner on the pandemic, but we are not done with the pandemic.
Thank you, Director Hudson. Honorable Mayor and Council, I'll go ahead and tell you about what we've been doing to get ready for our opening. We started back in early March and started meeting with our user groups on the fields for our CSOs. We determined a priority status of how we wanted to enter back into the recreation programs. And what we did was we prioritized field usage, then we prioritized the batting cages, day camps, our food program, our outdoor classes, and then our seniors. And so I'll be talking about that if you can go to the next slide, Gabe. So as of, I'm proud to tell you at the last commission meeting, we had these user groups ready. RBA, Pony, Pico Baseball Academy, and MLS are now playing on our fields, which is fantastic. We've had several meetings with the CSOs on Zoom. We did that to prepare. And we give weekly follow-ups and check-ins with all of the user groups. As Director Hudson stated, we are having some conflicts with OSHA, with LA County Public Health, and with the CDC. They're not agreeing. However, we have agreed as a city that we are going to be following the LA County Public Health, which is that our user groups, our CSOs, and our children, because the children are not vaccinated yet and they're high at risk, will be masking when they are playing their sports. That is what all of our neighboring cities are doing. So if you hear conflicting information from coaches and parents, that's where it's coming from. But we're taking the stance that we want our children to be safe and err on the side of safety. So our children will be masked, our coaches will be masked until that policy changes. So I'm really happy we got our batting cages fixed while we were closed during COVID, and it seems to be a hit. All of the families seem to be very excited, and our commissioners were really excited because this is one of the things they brought to us in early November, that they wanted to get these fixed when it was when we were opening. So they're now open, and you can make reservations if you'd like, and those are the hours. We'll go to the next slide, Gabe. Our summer camps are so popular, they've sold out. Everyone's really excited. The children are masking and there's no problems. The parents are really excited. They're actually sad for it to end, but we temperature check when they come in. We did have a little bit of issues upon entry because the kids were so used to Zooming. They were not used to waking up and like going to structured camps and things. So the parents have said that this is a very good transition to get them ready for the school year. So we're very happy about that. We have started 2 outdoor classes. Our karate and yoga are outdoors. This is our first attempt to get back our contract classes. People seem to be very comfortable with it, but we're at this point, we're not ready to have classes inside the facilities. Next slide. Our go-getters, they are go-getting. They're so cute. They've already started their practices and playing out there, and they're determined to be having their leagues. So we're excited to have our senior sports back. And with that, we'll go on to next week will be our first time, go ahead, that's okay, Gabe, going to having a soft opening for our senior center. We'll be opening on Mondays and Wednesdays all day. People can make reservations to utilize the gymnasium, to utilize the fitness center, I should say instead, to come in and utilize the computer room, or to come in and speak to the caseworker. This is just our soft opening. We're having trouble hiring staff. This is happening all around, not just local cities, but local employers are having trouble hiring and retaining staff. But as soon as we get more staff on board, we'll open the doors more often. So right now, we're opening Mondays and Wednesdays until the end of August. But if we can get more staff on board, and Director Hudson and his team are helping us tremendously, we will increase this. We'll keep adding days as we get more employees in. With that, we're ready to bring back special events, and I know this makes everybody happy. I'm very sorry we weren't able to produce July 4th, but we will be back. And we will be starting with National Night Out, and you've already heard from Lieutenant Hutak. It's going to be a hit, and we're excited about that. And then we also are starting with Movies Under the Stars, which will be August 14th and August 18th at Smith Park. And then on deck, we'll be bringing back our farmers market in the fall. So we're coming back, and we're going to be coming back stronger and better than ever, and we'll be COVID safe throughout everything and following all the policies alongside with Director Hudson. And with that, that's what I have.
Thank you. This is why all credit goes to staff and the residents of this community in terms of battling COVID-19. I could not have, we as a council could not have asked for better staff members in terms of Mr. Hudson with Human Resources and Ms. Ugar with Parks and Recs. I want to thank the both of you. And that concludes my report for the health and wellness in regards to Pico Rivera's response in terms of vaccinating our community. I still think that there's work that needs to be done because COVID's not over. With that, may I comment on two other items? Old business. Old business. I'll make it brief. I'm sorry. I'll make it brief. We had the privilege of attending the swearing-in ceremony for.
Whoa.
Okay.
No, that's in the category, the next
Okay.
category there.
Okay. So then I'll leave it at that. So with just one item I want to make a comment on, which is old business, and it has to do with the resins that we are going to choose for PFAS. I'm concerned that the two resins that are the front runners, and this does not reflect on staff, they're just going by the recommendation given by the Orange County Water District. And I'm going to get into the weeds on this, but this is something that bothers me. 30 seconds and I'm done.
I'm going to ask you to, okay, because again, this is out of the agenda, okay?
But it's old business.
All right.
30 seconds, I promise.
Yes, but you're going to conclude with an action. Are you
No,
going to
no,
need
no,
an action?
I'm not. I'm just going to make
Okay.
a comment.
All right.
The two resins that are being proposed, it's my understanding that DuPont will financially benefit if we choose one of those resins to clean up our water for PFAS. DuPont proliferated PFAS. I have a problem with a chemical company who knowingly polluted our water and did everything they could to fight its cleanup, benefiting from our communities because they make the resin to clean it up. Isn't that something? So that's my comment.
All right. Now, since it does have to do with health, we'll put it under your jurisdiction, and
Thank
you can
you.
bring it up and follow through with whatever action that you have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Economic development?
Well, thank you, Mayor. We've been having a lot of discussion on the Economic Recovery Committee, working directly with our city manager, our assistant city manager, our economic development director, our assistant too, Mr. Javier, in developing a comprehensive economic recovery plan. I have a full presentation that is coming forth. I don't have a presentation today. I mean, we've discussed business. We've done business assistance. We provided the loans to our business community. We addressed the public right-of-way areas, such as our railways, our freeways, responsibility of our United Pacific, BNSF, Caltrans, and other entities that have not cleaned up those areas. We've discussed the beautification of our medians and trying to make those improvements necessary. I've been working in conjunction with the school board members and Rojondo and the Pico Rivera Chamber of Commerce as it relates to workforce development, as it relates to apprenticeship program. I think this is the key component to help us get our residents employed and our youth that are not choose not to go to college but have programs available to them. There's a lot of apprenticeship programs available that we've identified and we're going to continue promoting. But in addition to that, the workforce development aspect that we're working in partnership with the entities are very important. Lastly, the overall economic development plan that we're presenting at our next meeting, it has to do with the 2-year plan, a 5-year plan, and a 10-year plan. We need to create a framework of the future of our city. We need, on the 2-year plan, we've identified all the capital improvement projects, the many economic development projects. We have $1 million of projects coming forward in our city in the next couple of years, which is going to change the makeup of our community. But then we need to begin to plan what the next 5 years look like. When you have a goal line coming in on Washington Boulevard, when you have a Whittier Boulevard with the major improvements, the question becomes, does the city of Pico Rivera future based on housing legislation and the density and the improvements that are moving forward with housing, does it look like Pico Rivera, it will now have a downtown? I don't know. But we need to begin to look forward and look beyond the next year to determine what is the future of our city, and then develop the 10-year plan. Overall, whether it be the Whittier Dam Safety Improvement Project is going to change the makeup of our community. It's going to take green space, extend the goal line, the bridge improvements, the road improvements. There's a lot coming to our city, and the presentation will have all that, and I'll do it in conjunction with staff and Lance.
And it is important, so are we going to have that, what item on the agenda is that going to, in your report?
Yeah, city manager report.
I have a question regarding that. Were the businesses that awarded the grants notified? All of the grants given, administered?
Yes, we had 16 applicants who submitted. Those businesses were all determined to be eligible. We have 2 more businesses that need to finalize their application this week, and then we can disperse all the funds. We'll be coming back to council to see if you would like to spend additional funds towards other business assistance, or if you would like to put those CDBG funds to other use.
Memo will be coming out tomorrow, updating council on that.
Now, the community service, what I did was I put an abundance of responsibilities and so on. She's going to be managing or, operating some of the more important organizations. Shall we, is there something that you want to report, or, you can report later on?
I can report quickly. We had a meeting with the organization called We Care, with staff and the business directors to discuss some of the proposals, and we took that with the HR director as well as assistant city manager. And so we're going to look through those proposals and see about the feasibility of contracting with this company to provide subsidized childcare services or ability to give that to some of our staff as well as to Pico Rivera residents. So there's different formulas, options, costs, which we will come back in the near future. We are working on a meeting. We're going to have a joint meeting with the Economic Development Committee. We're additionally scheduling a meeting in August with the El Rancho Unified. So I'll come back in August with more updates on that. I think this goes under old business. I did want to briefly give my Parks Commissioner, Gloria Aguirre, she's here this evening. Thank you for sitting through this long meeting. I wanted to give her a chance to introduce herself. I don't want to put you on the spot, but don't be embarrassed. It runs in the family. Gloria's daughter was actually the youth ex officio Parks Commissioner, a graduate of El Rancho High School. And I wanted Gloria to share a little bit about your experience with the Parks and Recreation and what you're working on in the commission right now.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Aguirre. I have a passion for what goes on in the city. My kids play sports here. I have 4 kids. My twin daughters that just graduated from UCLA and George Washington University. And I have a 14-year-old son that plays baseball, and my 10-year-old plays golf. So we are always, or I raised my kids in the park area, and so I've always had a passion. And when I was appointed, I was like, this is where I belong, right? Because I'm a voice to the city. And so I'm doing my best to represent, and I'm constantly voicing at the commissioners' meeting. And I think I'm in the right place. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you for your service, Gloria.
Thank you. That's it.
Public safety?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that. I'll be brief with a report on the Public Safety Committee. It's been several months now, and we've gotten together community members and staff alike twice. And I'm going to go over a couple of items that we've addressed, overseen, and things that have occurred positively to curtail crime and ensure the safety of the community. And then the other item I'm going to go over, I'm going to pass it over to Lieutenant Hutak. And on the overhead screen, you'll get to see the general crime stats that have increased or decreased, depending on category, over a 5-year period. So before we get to that, I just wanted to let you know that one of the items that was very dear to me was safety cameras to be installed in the parks. And we actually got that approved, and thanks to City Manager Carmona and Director Ugar. That project is ready to start, I believe. Director Ugar?
I have a construction meeting on Friday at 8:30.
Great.
But it's on Zoom, so, just so you know, it's not at the park.
Great. So that's a construction meeting, and that's regarding Rio Hondo Park.
Yes.
And that's going to be approximately, 18 cameras?
18 cameras, yes, and also the microphones, as well, the installation of the microphones, and we'll be working with Lieutenant Hutak and connecting it with the Sheriff's Department as well, and putting in that server.
Now, that's amazing, because I already can picture that you're going to have these signs out in the park that say, safety program cameras are in progress recording, and if anyone's up to any type of wrongdoing, someone's going to come up over on that little loudspeaker and let them know that they're doing something inappropriate. It reduces crime, it prevents crime, and it reduces the amount of sheriffs that we have out dispersed. And that is something great that over the couple of years, I understand that we're going to expand it. Is that correct, City Manager Carmona?
This is a pilot program. We'll evaluate the success of this, and council, I'm sure, will evaluate whether to expand it or not.
And the other item here, I did not prepare a General Manager McGee, but she actually has been part of the program of reinstalling all new city lights, street lights, which is a crime preventative tool. And how far along has that come along, General Manager McGee?
We completed the retrofit of about 2,000 streetlights in January of 2021. So about 2/3 of our streetlights have been upgraded to LEDs. We're in the process of upgrading our lights within parks and some of our decorative lights, like the nice Mission Bell ones that you see on Whittier Boulevard. So the majority of the project is complete. And then we're hoping to secure the remaining 1/3 of lights.
Thank you, thank you. And that goes on to the topic of street lights. They're all being replaced. 2/3 are done. Catalytic converter theft. And thanks to our Sheriff's Department, there's already been 2 occasions where they did catalytic converter etching events. And that helps in the theft of catalytic converters, but also the new brighter street lights helps in the prevention of catalytic theft and automobile theft. So I'm very proud that every department and our Sheriff's Department as well is working together to reduce crime rates in our city. The other item that I wanted to go over is the neighborhood watch groups. Because of the pandemic and because of the Delta variant possibly increasing infection rates, getting together with our groups is put on hold for a while, but I am going to eventually gather up and organize all the community watch groups in all sections of town because it's very important. We got to get the community united and take care of each other. Always united neighbors always take care of each other. And now finally, I'm going to go and hand it over to Lieutenant Hutak, and she's going to go over the crime stats over the 5-year period from 2016 to 2021. Lieutenant?
Thank you. Our crime statistics are tracked through the Sheriff's Department on a daily basis, and they are tracked on a 5-year year-to-date and a 1-year year-to-date. And so it's, there's obviously, a lot of changes that have happened in the last year, especially. Our crime rates from 5 years ago are predominantly down with the exception of grand theft autos, which are up less than 1%. And so we were definitely in a good position 5 years ago. Crime was actually down across the county around that time, and a lot of changes have taken place. The pandemic has brought some changes with regards to arrest procedures, booking procedures, bail procedures, and stuff like that. So our crime, we have seen some increases, and as you'll see, the year-to-date, the violent crimes, robbery, aggravated assaults are up, as well as grand theft auto. But we are continuing we track these on a daily basis, and, we discuss them frequently with our deputies in briefing and our problem-specific team, and we track the trends, where they're occurring, what areas of the city, what days, what times, and so we try to redirect our resources according to where our stats are showing the needs are.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And then finally, I did want to close with the Explorer program that the Sheriff's Department has. The enrollment is open, so all of our youth that are interested in getting information and enrolling in that, Lieutenant can give a little more information on that Explorer program for our local youth.
Sure. Our Explorer program is a leadership program, and it simulates a lot of the lifestyle and life lessons that are gained in law enforcement. It's open to ages 14 to 20. The goal, of course, is to mold and mentor young kids to develop personal responsibility and some, personal integrity and positive work ethic, and hopefully, that will grow in them as they are, exposed to what we do in law enforcement. And many of the explorers actually go on to become deputy sheriffs or members of the Sheriff's Department. And the reason it stops at 20 is at 20 and a half, the youth are eligible to actually apply for the Sheriff's Department. And what that does is twofold. It gives youth some direction. It exposes them to an area that they may not necessarily would have been exposed to, and many of them find that they like it. The other thing that does is that increases our recruitment from our actual communities. And so where the Sheriff's Department is, the goal of Sheriff Villanueva is to recruit from within. So the people that are working in our city are people that are born and raised and, in the case of the Explorer program, developed within our city. And so the Explorer program is right in line with what the sheriff's goals are for our department in recruiting and, getting employees within our cities.
Councilman?
City Manager, it's my understanding we had 5 catalytic converters stolen from the yard. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, that is correct. We recently had a break-in in our Public Works yard. We immediately went down there to assess the break-in along with Director Ugar. So under emergency orders, authorized the purchase of motion detection and cameras. We'll be bringing that back to council in August for formal approval, but I think those cameras are already almost going to get in place fairly soon.
Actually, it's because we were finalizing the order for Rio Hondo, we were able to add those cameras to our shipment. So they are being shipped. We should receive them in a week or two. And Friday, I have my pre-construction meeting. I'll ask them about that as well. But those might actually go in the sensors prior to Rio Hondo.
Yeah, and we currently have a security guard out there just to make sure that in the interim, that there is security there.
And it would be my recommendation that the city participates with the sheriff's program in terms of etching the VIN numbers on the catalytic converters. I know you guys run that event periodically. I think it would behoove the city to make sure that our catalytic converters are etched.
You want to address Councilman Lutz on that?
Sure. Councilmember Lutz.
Yes, you could tell me in a later date.
Thank you.
So we're going to wrap up the community safety report with that information. I would say that it is positive, and as each month passes, we're going to become a safer community. Thank you.
Okay, the next item here, now, listen very carefully, okay? This is to report any meetings that you've gone to, okay, that have to do with the city. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I didn't attend physically, but I participate in the Zoom SASFA. I'm the board member that represents the city of Pico Rivera. And as I mentioned before, we have, they're promoting their job force program. So anyone looking for a job, as we know, it's difficult to fill positions right now, but particularly youth, 14 to 24, if they're in high school right now and sitting at home in the summer, summer's not over yet, they can participate in a couple of weeks and get paid, get work experience. So let's train our youth because that's our next workforce. Secondly, I attended the community outreach event. The Army Corps of Engineer was there at the Pico Rivera Golf Course on Saturday. And there were several bikers that came in the morning to get information regarding the mitigation of the Whittier Narrows Dam project, as well as our bike path that will be built on Mines Avenue soon. And there's going to be another event, I believe, on Saturday this week at Smith Park. And what we're coining as Piclavi, a community biking event like Ciclavi. I just made that up, but July 31st, it will be a community bike ride in order to promote biking and health and safety. So, so we can promote that. I don't know if I've seen a digital flyer. Oh yes, it's all in one. So that's it for me.
Okay. Councilman Camacho?
I have no agency meeting reports.
Okay. Councilman Lara?
Great, thank you. I had the privilege of attending the installation of the Commander Dan Ortiz to the VFW Post 7734. While there, I met a nice lady who, her name is Anne Marie Gandara, and she'd like to put together a POW and MIA dinner fundraiser. She'd like some help with our social media. I have her contact information, and I'd like the city to promote their events in regards to their fundraiser. I'll talk later about that with them offline.
Councilman Lutz?
I too had the privilege of attending the new board installation at the VFW for the commander, VFW 7734. And it was a delight to meet all the veterans that attended and get to know them personally and have small conversations with them. And I look forward to seeing them throughout the year.
Thank you. Council, do we have any closed session? No, sir. If not, meeting's adjourned.